or making that available for a friend or family member. All right, joining us now at the top of this 10 o'clock hour as a part of our ongoing conversation series with the Congressional Black Caucus is Virginia Congressman A. Donald McEachen. He represents Virginia's 4th congressional district. He is also co-chair of the House Democratic Environmental Message Team, and he also sits on the Select Committee on the Climate Crisis. That's a select House committee that was created to address through policy making the climate crisis that we're dealing with. And in fact, that was one of the first high profile activities, particularly in Washington on Capitol Hill, that transitioned the messaging from climate change, because we've been going through the change for quite a time, but especially when we look at these this very active hurricane season, and we look at disasters such as the wildfires, the destructive, devastating wildfires out west and these heat waves. It is indeed a moment of climate crisis. Congressman McEachen here to talk with us about what's happening, what he's doing as far as environmental justice is concerned. Congressman, how are you doing? Welcome this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
All right. Good morning to you. You can get more information on the congressman. Go to mceachen.house.gov for more information on what he's up to. So talk to us about the environmental justice components of the Congressional Black Caucus's Jobs and Justice Act. That's we talked to the Congressional Black Caucus chairwoman last week, Karen Bass, your colleague, about that last week. What elements of it are focused on environmental issues?
Well, a good portion of the bill is focused on environmental issues, and in particular, environmental justice. And of course, when we think about environmental justice, we're talking about those Black, Brown, Native American, poor communities that are oftentimes find themselves on the front lines of polluting industries. They might have a landfill in their neighborhood. They might have a coal ash dump that's polluting their waters. They may have bad air or bad water for some other reason. There are historical reasons that this happened, from redlining to discrimination to any number of reasons why these communities have been singled out, disenfranchised, and dumped on literally by polluters. And so what the Environmental Justice for All Act does is it says, let's empower these folks. A gentleman by the name of Raul Brahava, who's the chair of the Natural Resources Committee, and I listened to environmental justice communities for over a year and a half to hear what they had to say about how to solve their problems. And we crafted this bill together not based on what we wanted, but on what they told us. So we really just cobbled this bill together. And it gives them a right of action under the Civil Rights Act to enforce environmental rules and regulations for their betterment. It requires the federal government to engage in real conversation with them before the federal government can take action that will adversely affect them. Those are just a couple of the components. It also has the notion of comparative, to look at these polluting plants and look at them not in a silo, but add them together with whatever else is going on before you permit it. So if you're trying to put a new gas plant in an area, see what that area already has in terms of pollutants before you permit that gas plant.
Do you worry about, so it sounds like you've got an ambitious set of policy goals that's embedded within the Jobs and Justice Act. You're trying to take environmental injustice, you're trying to tackle that head on, but how much do you worry about, okay, if this bill passes, one, is it going to pass through the current Senate, given the political composition of that? And then you have an administration, a current administration, that's completely hostile to any sort of action or any sort of movement with respect to environmental justice. I mean, you have an EPA that's pretty much just another federal agency. I mean, it has no enforcement teeth whatsoever right now under this current administration. So how realistic is it to pass an environmental justice package like this?
Well, you're right. It is a huge worry that we'll be able to have success either in the Senate or the administration. But There's an old saying here in Virginia that if a thing is right, the time is right, and this bill is right, therefore the time is right. And if we don't do anything else, we will engage the American public in this conversation so that prayerfully, when we win the Senate in November and when we win the White House in November, folks will understand the importance of environmental justice, and folks will understand why we're moving with all deliberate speed in that first 100 days of the Biden administration to get it passed.
Congressman, also, what are some of the specific environmental issues, because you mentioned quite a few of them just a few moments ago. You've got the redlining, you've got, issues of space, of particularly black populations being forced into spaces that are heavily polluted. I'm sure you're dealing with some of those issues in your congressional district, in the 4th Congressional District in Virginia. Talk about that. What are some of those issues, like daily issues, that constituents are coming to you about that deal with the environment?
Wow. Well, we've got a bunch of them right here in the 4th Congressional District. We've got a landfill that has leaked and continues to make the air foul in a particular part of my district. We've got coal ash that is polluting the waters in a different part of my district. I will say this: the state legislature has done a great job in dealing with the coal ash problem, so that is on the way to cleanup. But nonetheless, it's still there, and it still presents a problem. We've got in a small rural county that's majority black, we've got not one but 2 gas plants that are trying to be sited, that is being put into that community. Those gas plants will do nothing for in terms of providing energy for those communities, for that particular community, yet it'll put out all sorts of noxious pollutants into the air. So we're pushing back against that as well.
We're talking with, if you're just now tuning in, we're having a conversation with Congressman A. Donald McGeachin. You can learn more about him at mcgeachin.house.gov. He represents Virginia's, that's where my family's from, Congressman, Virginia's 4th Congressional District, mcgeachin.house.gov, at Rep. McGeachin on Reality Check here on Twitter, on social media, if you'd like to engage him there as well. He's joining us to talk about environmental justice issues. So this is a good start. You're trying to spark more conversation and awareness around environmental justice, trying to gear up in preparation for a potential win, a retaking of the White House and also the Senate. But I wonder about how those of us in the black policy-making, political and media space, Congressman, are working on making these issues relatable to the larger black community. So just a few moments ago, you just described how there are like daily issues, very real destructive issues in your district around environmental injustice, environmental racism, and pollution. Black people are aware of environmental issues and challenges that they live through, but I wonder sometimes about how we activate black voters around an issue like this, because oftentimes, like I had a conversation yesterday with some folks in Detroit and Indianapolis, and they were saying that when it comes to environmental issues, sometimes there are a lot of us who think that this is a white people's issue, that this is like a hippie tree hugging issue. How do we get out of that mindset? How do we let people understand that, hey, listen, we're on the front lines of this?
That's a great question, and there are a couple of things that I think we need to do. I'm a trial lawyer by training, but I also hold a Master's of Divinity, and it was at Virginia Union University where I got my Master's of Divinity that I really came into my own when it comes to creation care or in terms of the environment. And I point that out to suggest that we need more of our preachers preaching that from the pulpit, preaching about the environment, preaching about the importance of our creation care as we try to elevate this to what I call a kitchen table level. The other thing is that folks in the media, such as yourself, are being kind enough to cover these types of actions. We need more media exposure. Right now, we are focused on Confederate statues. That's important, not trying to denigrate that effort to take those down. We're focused on police reform. That's important, not trying to denigrate that. But the reality is that people are in the streets over 401 years to be precise, of racism on this continent. And that's the reason they're in the streets. And something like environmental justice is a issue that is ripe with racism, that's born out of racism, and that this is the exact time to address. And so if we can get expanded media coverage, not just on those things that are sort of being covered now, but on the, all the things that deal with racism in this country, including the environment, I think you would have been, we'll be well served by that type of coverage.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Whereas your colleagues in the Congressional Black Caucus, you're moving more intentionally and more aggressively around environmental injustice, environmental racism issues. You're crafting environmental policy through an equity lens. What about your white colleagues in the Congress, particularly in the House? Do they get this? When you're talking with also mainstream environmental advocacy groups, like say the Sierra Club, for example, do they get it? Do they understand like how much of a frontline issue this is for vulnerable Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities, particularly those Black communities that are dealing with these issues regularly in a district like yours?
Yes, we call them Big Green, the Sierra Club, the League of Conservation Voters, groups like that. The Big Greens get it. They've come quite a long way over the years and have really worked hard to incorporate environmental justice issues into their portfolio and to support environmental justice groups in their efforts to lobby the Congress and to improve our approach to climate change. I serve on the Select Committee on the climate crisis, and I served on Joe Biden's Unity Commission on the climate crisis. And both of those plans put environmental justice at the center of their efforts because they understand that you cannot correct climate change without addressing environmental justice issues. So I'm happy to say that both the Big Greens and my white Democratic colleagues get it. We still have some missionary work to do with the Republicans, though.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, how do you feel like you need to reach across the aisle to have them get it? I mean, how do you have to frame this issue? I've had multiple discussions about this, and do you have to frame it as not as environmental justice, but as a conservation issue? I've had conversations with quite a few people in the environmental advocacy space, Democratic and Republican strategists alike, who are saying, well, maybe it's a conversation about conservation, about saving these spaces that they like to use, that those audiences like to use for hunting and fishing and camping and hiking. Spaces that they like to regularly access unimpeded. I guess we have to have the conversation like that with them to ensure that they come over and engage in policy making that preserves the planet that we live on.
I think that's one approach. I think another approach is jobs. One of the things that we're going to be doing in terms of correcting environmental injustice is doing away with, these fossil fuel, our reliance on fossil fuels. And as we move into a green economy, as we talk about windmills and redoing the grid and solar power, we need to invest in what we call, in both of those plans I referenced earlier, we call it a just transition. That's actually investing monies in environmental justice communities and investing monies in communities that have historically been dependent upon fossil fuels, investing those monies in a way that gives them an opportunity to transition to a green economy, to have an opportunity to get new jobs and learn new skills. So we package it both as conservation and as jobs. We have an opportunity to dialogue with Republicans.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you said that, and I know that you sit on an environmental advisory committee, as you just said a few seconds ago, for Joe Biden's campaign. But like when he comes to Pennsylvania, he's always talking about how he will continue along with fracking in the state. Pennsylvania is a big fracking natural gas state. And there are a lot of folks in Pennsylvania and beyond who feel like, no, Pennsylvania needs to immediately transition to clean energy. So how do you reconcile that? Whenever he's in Pennsylvania, he's being asked about fracking. He's saying, no, I'm not going to shut down fracking, because he's afraid of the voters he might lose in Pennsylvania. if he shows too much resistance towards fracking. But how can he immediately pivot? I'm always waiting for him to immediately pivot the conversation to clean energy about how we can expand solar, wind energy, hydro, and other forms of clean energy throughout a big state, a state with so much potential like Pennsylvania, but he just won't do it.
Well, I think when you look at his plan in totality, you see that he has made a real commitment to moving away from fossil fuels and moving towards a clean energy economy. He has taken the approach that it has to be done gradually, that we can't just turn on a dime. And look, we've got a number of years, not a forever time period. We certainly have a horizon of 2050 where all this has to be done by. So we do need to do it deliberately. We do need to do it with some thought. But make no mistake about it, Joe Biden is committed to a clean economy. He's committed to getting this country off of its reliance on fossil fuels. But obviously this is not something that we're going to be able to do overnight. But we have to do it with some sense of urgency, and I believe he possesses that sense of urgency.
One last question, Congressman. Do you worry that the state of the environment right now, we're watching all these disasters converge on us in very dramatic ways this year? We have a very active hurricane season. I know that's something that you worry about in your district in Virginia. The whole state of Virginia been dealing with more states of emergency as a result of those hurricanes. The wildfires out west, more climatic tornadoes, more intense heat waves that disproportionately impact Black communities. Do you feel like this is making the racism that we deal with on a daily basis worse?
It absolutely is, because it's making the divide worse. We've got to do any number of things when it comes to preparing ourselves for natural disasters, including taking the position of building back better. And I'm not just riffing off of the Biden campaign slogan. Far too often when we recover from a natural disaster, we just restore stuff. But when we restore stuff, we're restoring it to maybe a 1990s standard. We're not restoring it to a 2020 standard. We're not making things more resilient for the next storm. We need to, when we start rebuilding areas that have been devastated by natural disasters, we need to rebuild them for the next storm, not the last storm. And that's one of the problems that we see. Those who have money, those who have wealth, those who have access, which is usually those who are in the majority, can protect themselves from the next storm. Those who don't have that type of access and money, usually minorities, don't have that ability, so that when we come in as the federal government, we've got to make sure that happens.
We've been talking with Congressman A. Donald McGeachin. He represents Virginia's 4th Congressional District. He's been joining us here as a result of our ongoing conversation, our weekly conversations with the Congressional Black Caucus. Go to mcgeachin.house.gov for more information, at Rep. McGeachin on Twitter if you'd like to engage him on social media there. He's been joining us here on Reality Check. Congressman, really appreciate your time, appreciate the conversation. I'm sure we'll touch base again. Thanks again. All right. Okay, we let him go. I think we lost him for that last minute. Okay, let's take a quick break, and when we come back on the other side, we'll be talking with the National Bar Association's C.K. Hoffler, going to talk about what's happening with this issue in the Supreme Court. Obviously the very sudden, abrupt passing of Associate Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has a lot of people worried in and outside of Washington. C.K. Hoffler going to talk about what's going on, what's the next step from a Black attorney's perspective. National Bar Association representing nearly 70,000 Black attorneys and judges nationwide. Coming up next here on Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Emeka Show, Saturdays at 1 p.m. right here on WURD 96.1 FM and 900 AM. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
He knew Donald Trump knew how deadly COVID was months ago, and he lied about it. Just listen.
Now it's turning out it's not just old people, Bob. Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older
exactly.
young people, to plenty of young people.
Donald Trump knew as early as February just how deadly COVID was before anyone even died, and he did nothing about it. His indifference cost tens of thousands of black lives.
It goes through air, Bob. You just breathe the air. That's how it's passed. It's also more deadly than even your strenuous flus.
Nearly 200,000 dead. 1 in 5 are black. This virus is literally killing us, and Trump did nothing to stop it.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you, I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down because I don't want to create a panic.
Too late, Mr. President.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Need a new mattress? Stop by to see Julian, the mattress man, located at 7421 Stenton Avenue. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure the best prices on name brand mattresses like Sealy, Posturepedic. Call 215-424-5550. That's 215-424-5550.
Livelihood, the new initiative from Word Radio, connecting Philadelphians to jobs, entrepreneurship opportunities, small business resources, and financial literacy. Visit WURDworks.com right now and take the next step in your professional journey. Livelihood is supported by the Nightland Fest's Local News Transformation Fund, Borealis Philanthropies Racial Equity and Journalism Fund, and the Solutions Journalism Network.
First started in 2011, Philly Tech Week is an annual week-long celebration of technology, entrepreneurship, and innovation in the Philadelphia region. This year is the 10th annual Philly Tech Week presented by Comcast, now fully reimagined as a week of virtual events, from professional development seminars to highly engaging interactive virtual parties. You'll get connected with the ideas, tools, people, and processes that are building a better future for all communities. Virtual events run from September 21st to the 25th. Learn more and build your calendar at phillytechweek.com.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com for your live stream. For those of you listening, not just in Philly, but beyond Greater Philly, Delaware Valley. Also by Word app as well on your smartphone, tablet device. Don't forget to download that, by the way, on your Google Play Store, your Apple Store as well. Download the Word app. Where there is a word, where there is Word, there is indeed an app for that. As they say, there's always an app for something. So Word has an app for that too. So you can download it, Google Play Store, on your Apple Store, put it on your smartphone, tablet device. I have it on my smartphone. I carry it with me when I'm on the go. And when I was traveling, I haven't really traveled that much in the year of pandemic, but as you're kind of moving around, I'd like to take Word with you anywhere on the planet. Definitely download it at your Word app. We're waiting on attorney C.K. Hoffler, who is current president of the National Bar Association. We don't have her just yet. We'll just wait on her. Let's open up the phone lines while we do. 215-634-8065, toll free. It is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. There's also breaking news. There's breaking news out of Washington, D.C. Utah Senator Mitt Romney, also former 2012 Republican presidential candidate, has announced that he will support holding a floor vote on a new Supreme Court nominee this year under the current Trump administration. Quoting Senator Romney, "I intend to follow the Constitution and precedent in considering the president's nominee. If the nominee reaches the Senate floor, I intend to vote based upon their qualifications." So that essentially clinches consideration of President Trump's nominee this year, despite the election. So there's obviously virtually no Republican opposition to a presidential pick or presidential nomination to fill the vacancy that has been left by the passing of Associate Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So we are pretty much bracing for a Supreme Court battle. It's just a matter of the timing, how soon before the election or how soon after the election. We don't have like all the particulars or details on that, but you know, obviously it's all political. It's all political. It's a matter of, okay, well, Republicans kind of looking at that calculus and saying, okay, well, how much can we benefit from this politically to help the president remain in the White House and for us to maintain hold on the Senate? Could this be something to hold back really intense challenges that are happening on the Senate map in places like Maine, in places like Arizona, South Carolina? Those are a few states that come to mind. Also, some worries there in Georgia. There are some Senate seats that Republicans are holding that are considered toss-ups at the moment, that are considered extremely competitive, whereas in a normal political climate or a normal election year, they would not be competitive, but they are considered competitive. And so Republicans, sounds like Republicans are making the calculus that maybe this is something that could work to their favor or their advantage politically. How much will it galvanize or motivate or encourage their base in voting in 2020? Now, early polling numbers that we saw before this happened on Friday, before the passing of Justice Ginsburg, early polling suggested, this is polling from just a couple of weeks ago, suggested that there might be quite a bit more enthusiasm from Democratic voters, or Democratic-based voters at least, than Republican-based voters around the issue of a Supreme Court pick. Democratic-based voters starting to come around and get that, you know what, Supreme Court thing, that's a pretty important issue. We might want to pay a little bit more attention to that, because this is one of those issues that always catches fire among conservative and Republican-based voters. It's that Supreme Court pick. If there's one thing they are very consistent on, and they always want, is they want a Supreme Court pick or a Supreme Court nomination, Supreme Court confirmation for them. Joining us now is National Bar Association President C.K. Hoffler. She joins us. She's back again here on Reality Check on WURD. Attorney Hoffler, how are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you this morning?
Okay, I'm hanging in there. So really appreciate your time. And what do you make of that? Just breaking news that came out. It doesn't surprise me, because let's just be honest, Republicans will be Republicans when it comes to issues like a Supreme Court nominee or pick. But Senator Mitt Romney out of Utah, who some people will say is a moderate, I don't think there's any such thing, particularly in the Senate anymore, as a moderate Republican. But Senator Mitt Romney announcing that he wants a floor vote on this, that he will support whomever that nominee is coming from President Trump. So does this change anything, or does it surprise you at all?
It doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. I really wish it did surprise me, but it doesn't surprise me, and it's for this reason. They are determined, the Republicans appear to be determined at all costs to get through their nominee and to get it done quickly by any means necessary. So that's what they're doing. This is evolving. It's a very volatile situation, and quite frankly, because they control the Senate. They have such an overwhelming majority control of the Senate. And that is why they're able to do and take these actions and put them in place very quickly, because they have control. And that's the difficulty that the Democrats are facing, is that control. But I have some suggestions of ways to address this, because we have to listen to what Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Justice Ginsburg, said on her deathbed to her granddaughter. Let the next president, the new president of the United States, pick and nominate who should be the next Supreme Court justice after that person is installed. After the person's installed. That would be after January, once the ceremony of the installation of the President of the United States takes place. That was her dying wish. This rush to do it now is something that is absolutely defeating and oppressive to the American people. The position of Supreme Court justice, the highest court of the land, is so critical right now, because the Supreme Court is going to hear every single issue of primary importance to the American people, to everybody, from immigration to women's reproductive rights, civil rights, voting rights, health care, everything that impacts our communities, and in particular, Black and brown communities, will go up to the Supreme Court. And so the person who replaces Justice Ginsburg is going to be pivotal. We cannot take this lightly. There's a process. There's a vetting process. organizations and groups such as the National Bar Association and other bar associations should be allowed, as we always have, to weigh in on the candidacy. Other organizations as well. What is this pushing it through right quick? You don't push through right quick and in a hurry something this significant. That is, even if Justice Ginsburg had not said, even if she had not taken the position that she took, wait until the new president is installed. That would be in January, before this happens, even if she hadn't taken that position. The better part of integrity, valor, democracy, and fairness would dictate that this be done. We have to be very, very careful. We can't just take this lightly.
In your mind, CK, are there any options on the table? Are there any policy, any legal levers that Senate Democrats especially can activate? Any sort of recourse to slow this process down? Is there anything? You said that you have some suggestions or some recommendations about a few months ago.
And the thoughts that I have come from the people. Flooding the phone lines, calling the senators, calling targeted senators to let them know, no, this is not the way. There are polls that suggest that over 60% of Americans do not want this to be done right now. They think it's too quick. They think it's too expeditious. They think it's not right. They don't think it's good. What goes for the goose goes for the gander. If the Republicans said when President Obama in his last 10 months that there's not a single person that's going to be confirmed because he's a lame duck president, their words, not mine, lame duck president, then what goes for the goose goes for the gander. What goes for the gander goes for the goose. Whoever is the goose or the gander. It goes both ways. Mark my words, that's what he said. When we're in this position, we'll feel the same way. And now they're just making up stuff. Well, what we meant, what had happened. No, you said, and that's because, okay, we may not have liked it, but 10 months is a long process. 45 days is not. 10 months is a long time. 45 days, less than 45 days before the presidential election. We can't wait. We can't wait.
Yeah.
Not 10 months. Before January, we're talking 3-4 months. So this is not what democracy should be about. This is rogue politics. And so what would the legal recourse be? Certainly, there might, and I know people are exploring litigation. I mean, I'm a trial lawyer, so of course we always look at litigation.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I mean, I wonder, couldn't Senate Democrats, couldn't organizations like yours team up with other organizations and just like engage in really aggressive litigation?
Well, yeah, we are exploring that. The only problem with this type of issue, and a lot of organizations are exploring that, how to stop this process, how to slow it down, because it's we the people. Let the people speak at the polls of what they want to do before this is confirmation. The problem is the president, constitutionally and otherwise, what we run into is the president's ability and discretion to do this. So the issue is in the Senate. So the litigation, if there is some, and I don't know because, again, some of the best legal scholars in the country and the world are looking at this question. And if there is anything that could be done, it would have to be through going down the process in the Senate because that's where it's going to be. That's where the confirmation process will be. The Republicans have said, hey, we're together. We are one, and we're doing it. We're doing it. And a couple have come. We need more than a couple in order for this to be defeated. And again, I just think it's in the interest of fairness and justice. This is not even a partisan issue. Really, it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. But for those who don't get it, for those in our community who are listening right now, what you need to know is this. Every single aspect of your life, and I don't care if you are struggling right now like many of us are because of COVID, or if you're doing exceptionally well, because many people are doing exceptionally well during COVID, believe it or not. Everything about your life and your family and your children's lives in our community, all of those issues are going to be impacted by this. It's hard to see. But if we just let's think of one of the most celebrated opinions recently, dissenting opinion that Justice Ginsburg offered in the Holder case. It involved election protection, voting rights. Hear me now in our community. Voting rights, the suppression that we are encountering today, which is horrific. I know because we have over 6,000 lawyers that we at the National Bar are pushing as part of the nonpartisan election protection efforts. We see every single day We are part of a group with Transformative Justice Coalition, Barbara Arnwine, Reverend Jackson Rainbow Push, and the National Bar marching to the polls. People are surrounded and intimidated by people who are from right-wing, racist, white supremacy groups, intimidating voters in black and brown communities. This is real. In certain communities, Danville, Virginia, other parts of Virginia where there's early voting. We know that 6% of African-American ballots that were considered were tossed away because of irregularities in North Carolina. Already, this is real. Election suppression is real. I personally was a victim of it in the last primary elections in Georgia. Who knew? Who knew? I got there early to vote quickly so I could go about my day in Georgia. It took almost 5 hours for me to vote. The brand spanking new machines weren't working. That was, and by the way, only in certain precincts.
Yeah, of course.
The machines weren't. Yeah, it wasn't universal because 10 minutes away, someone who works with me, she voted in 5 or 7 minutes. So the machines weren't working. There weren't enough paper ballots for the hundreds of people in line. 5 hours. 5 hours during COVID?
How do we, real quick, CK, too, I wonder about that because every time we come up on one of these Supreme Court battles, the conversation just centers on, where the mainstream conversation tends to just center on, okay, well, how this is going to impact Roe v. Wade. And so how do we make this conversation a bit more expansive and more relatable to black people, where we're talking about, I mean, I understand how important Roe v. Wade is and how historic that, and how vulnerable that case is because Supreme Court decisions don't necessarily mean that something just automatically gets baked into the Constitution. It's interpretation. It's all based on interpretation and precedent. But I wonder about that, like how people, especially like listeners into a program like this, as they're hearing your talk, well, how does this relate to me? Because everybody's just worried about Roe v. Wade, because you know what I mean, like the mainstream conversation, and that can be a bit irritating sometimes because it's just like you've been saying over the course of this segment. Hey, there's a whole bunch of big, larger than life dealing with voting rights, civil rights, labor rights, environmental rights, everything. Everything.
So let me just go through a couple of them. There's just so much, and I do understand how people are getting annoyed with the discussion of Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade is important to me, but it may not be something that a lot of people in our community focus on solely. So I do get it. But let me talk to something about other issues that we do focus on a lot. Healthcare reform. Getting rid of the Healthcare Act, getting rid of some of the strides that the Obama administration and some of the great measures put into place so that healthcare can be affordable for all. That's going to be something that will be decided. It's already being eroded and chipped away. But if there's a case, and when there's a case, they get to the Supreme Court on that, that's going to be a significant issue. Let's talk about immigration. For those of you, all of us, on some level are immigrants. We came from Africa, so I'm just not quite sure if people, and we do understand that when we talk about immigrants, people think about people from Africa today, or people from, Latin America, people from South America, people from the Caribbean, that's what we think about in our community when we think of immigrants. So if we think some of the issues we've seen now relative to immigrants are bad, if there is a court that does not have the conscience of that, and there's another Supreme Court justice that doesn't have the more fiber to look at some of those issues in a way that has passion and compassion, and then that's going to be another significant challenge that will affect Black and brown communities. We talked about voting rights. One of the things that we do at the National Bar this season, and always, the late Congressman John Lewis, when I sat with him and Reverend Jackson on March 2nd of this year, told us we as Black lawyers need to protect the right to vote. They marched and protested, and some died so that we could vote. But we have to protect the right to vote. The Voting Rights Act is being eroded. That's another issue we saw with just and Justice Ginsburg wrote the dissenting opinion that really threw out any of the measures that we would have relied on that would have protected us from the vast election suppression that we see now. irregularities. This state does it this way, that does it that way. Look at your signature. There's not a perfect match. You didn't check the box. Your ballot is invalidated. You're not at the right precinct. We're giving you a provisional ballot that will never become. All of these things, all of these issues, all of these concerns around voting were at the Supreme Court level, and the dissenting opinion was Justice Ginsburg. It's going to come up again.
Yeah.
So immigration, health care, voting rights, civil rights. All right,
Yeah.
want to talk about something that impacts our community? How about civil rights?
Yeah.
How about
Yeah.
civil rights? How about the people who are being arrested now for exercising their right to protest peacefully because they're outraged by George Floyd, by Breonna Taylor, by seeing black men and women killed every single day at the hands of law enforcement? How about policing reform? You want to take it home? You want to go for broke? How about policing reform?
Or even it comes down to, people don't believe this. I keep reminding people about this, particularly when I have conversations with people like, well, how does this affect me personally? Even down to how you wear your hair. I mean, like that kind of case, like, the ability to wear your culture on your head, that type of case, whether you can wear natural hair or dreadlocks in a workplace, that also arrives at the Supreme Court too. So, like, if you don't want people telling you, it's just, people don't understand that. CK, I got to let you go, actually. We ran on time. We got to go to break, but I really appreciate this. We got to have you back. CK Hoffler, president of the National Bar Association. For more information, go to National Bar. Is it nationalbar.org?
Nationalbar.org.
Nationalbar.org. Excellent. CK, we'll talk with you again. Thanks again. Take care.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, let's take a break, and we'll be right back. Phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
He's back.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton.
Keeping it real with the Reverend Al Sharpton.
In times like these, we have to stay connected.
At a brand new time. Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. till midnight.
I'm excited that Keeping It Real returns to WURD.
Keeping it real with the Reverend Al Sharpton. Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. till midnight. This program is pre-recorded. No phone calls, please.
Keep it locked to WURD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. WURDradio.com.
Always Best Care is a great place to work. Flexibility,
leadership, purpose,
great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
Diversity, inclusion, compasión.
We love our jobs. If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Support independent black media and join the Forward movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy. It's never too early to talk about registration and voting. Listen to this rap about registration and voting. It's called A Two-Step by Dr. Lucille W. Ijoy and Bill D. Jolly.
Listen to Grandmama and take this special note. Step 1 is registration. Step 2, go out and vote. It's called a two-step. It's called a two-step. Yeah, the two-step. It's called a two-step. Calling all citizens, don't you delay. It's time to do the two-step and do it right away. You say you want to have, you say you want to change. Well, get up off your duck, you have the power to arrange. Two-step, it's called the two-step. Yeah, the two-step, it's called the two-step. Listen to Grandmama and take this special note. Step 1 is registration. Step 2, go out and vote. It's called a two-step. It's called a two-step.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
Yeah, so 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check Live. We are also on Facebook Live, facebook.com/forward. Definitely feel free to leave your questions and comments there while you're watching us on our live stream. Appreciate those of you listening in. Good morning to you, Shirley J. Carter. Good morning back at you, Shalata C.A. Sankofa, Malcolm White, watching and listening from West Mount Airy, Nakia Twin Campbell. Good morning to you, Kimberly Ferris. Good morning to you as well. Gloria Gainey, good morning to you. Gloria Gainey, watching, listening, and learning. Junior Lee, we cannot have shaming the Republicans as a strategic option. They have power, not shame. Dems will have to get nuclear creative with their approach. While her points are valid, her appeal is lacking. So Junior Lee making a good point there. Democrats are going to have to figure out some really creative and really aggressive way to delay, to stall things. That is interesting, as C.K. Halford was talking about, well, you know, there's some discussions. There's some discussions about filing lawsuits. Let me tell you, I don't know what it is on the part of Democrats, national Democrats more specifically, the hesitation on filing a lawsuit to delay things, to gum the machine, or put, you know, some sort of delay mechanism in the process, because Republicans do it all the time. Republicans were doing it with respect, for example, with the Affordable Care Act. There are like a couple of cases that are currently in the federal courts that have been going on since John Boehner was Speaker of the House, was the Republican Speaker of the House. So that was years ago. But, you know, there's always this hesitation on the part of Democrats or aligned groups to act very to act very aggressively, to act very dramatically, and utilizing the courts to do that. In many ways, Republicans, you know, there's a number of reasons why, like, Republicans are pushing forward with this. One, Republicans will be Republicans. Republicans are all about, you know, once they, it's as Mitch McConnell always says all the time, you know, election winners are the policy makers. Election losers are the policy losers, right? So, you know, you win an election, then you get the opportunity to, you do get the opportunity to form policy, to make policy. You keep losing elections, you don't have that opportunity anymore. You have no power, you have no control. So, you know, which is why I keep telling people keep putting all these different demands on the table about, oh, they're not, you know, there's some people out there saying, oh, I'm not going to vote unless they do this or that. Well, it's like, well, none of that's going to happen if the people you expect to make these moves are losing elections. So, because you're certainly not putting that demand, you know, it's interesting, like, you know, with the case or the conversation regarding reparations, I don't hear anybody putting that demand on Republicans. Because, you know, because it's interesting, because people who are pushing that, who keep saying, oh, I'm going to hold my vote because I need these people to vote on, or I need them to push reparations. Well, what's interesting is, like, you do understand, like, a lot of those folks out there, they understand that, oh, Republicans aren't going to push that for them. So the expectation is that, yes, Democrats will push that for them. Well, they're not going to be able to push that for them if they keep losing elections, or if they don't have any control over the White House, no control whatsoever over the Senate. You know, people are going to have to get a real big civics lessons here. Let me go to Woody out in Whitfield, who's calling in for a reality check. How you doing, Woody?
Hey, Charles, you're right on it, man. You're right on it. One of the things, and I continue to say this, the latest comment from Trump had to do with he's done more than all the presidents except Abraham Lincoln. You know, these little short jabs and shots at you, you know, African Americans, what the hell you got to lose? Your schools are all messed up. You can't get money from your banks. You're being gentrified out your neighborhoods. Well, that was 4 years ago. Has he done anything about that? Since he's done so much for, he's saying, since Abraham Lincoln, for black people. See, these are questions that are just going up in the air, and nobody says anything about it. If there was any other cultural group, somebody making statements like that, there would be some backlash, at least from somebody from the Democratic connection. Somebody should say something. So all I can do is, you know, write stories or, you know, put stuff out there the best way I can. But I'm just a little barbershop. The other side is, if we don't start practicing, remember the slow readers, remember the non-readers, remember this whole setup in our city, the school system is so messed up. Now they got a whole school board thing that they're talking about doing for racism. They're going into, okay, well, we got this panel that we're going to try to put together so that we can have an issue that deals directly with how race is viewed here. Well, if they get on race, I don't call it race. I have to say this is systemic educational discrimination. So you got to name things, and when you name them, see, racism could be a whole bunch of stuff. But the fact that you're discriminating against us, you got to remember systemic educational discrimination. Now, let's just remove the word racism. I'm going to let you go after this from your vocabulary. You would have to deal with bigotry, hatred, prejudice, segregation, and all those real things. But by saying racism, you can go around in circles with a whole bunch of stuff. So it's back to the word again. It's really only one race called human, many cultures, only one color called melanin with many shades. So there's really no such thing as racism. This whole thing was put together by white supremacy. So say white supremacy instead of racism. That's what has us in the hole.
Hey, Woody, let me get your thoughts on this, because you mentioned the school board, Philadelphia school board. Should that be an appointed school board or an elected school board in your mind?
Well, actually, Charles, the issue of school is just so messed up that I would have to start with retraining people who went to schools who want to turn their diplomas back in. You know what I mean? They know they didn't get it, and they would have to be retrained for a good 1 to 5th grade education. It's just so messed up that this whole thing with Haight's trying to do what he can. But, again, have you heard about this thing on racism, this new thing that's supposed to come in next year?
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Okay, so if you understand that this whole thing on racism is the key that's going to throw you off, instead of dealing with educational discrimination, systemic educational discrimination. See, we've been discriminated against so long that you've gotten used to it, and you've gotten a word that's not real. And everybody's listening to it in the courts and everything else. That throws everything off. Stick on educational discrimination. If you do that, then we can get this mess straightened out.
All right. I appreciate you, Woody. Thanks for calling. Let's take a break, and when we come back on the other side, we're actually supposed to be talking with, we're scheduled to talk with Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner. Phone lines are open in case you have questions for him. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner coming up next here on Reality Check in the 11 o'clock hour, Tuesday edition, here on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
But they've got the experience.
I'm still in shock 3 or 4 years later that we're in this position now. Our democracy is at a pivotal point.
From the top, we don't trust our government. We see the trouble we're in economically. We've got 170,000 Americans dead, and yet this president will do anything he can to make it seem like things are better than they are.
I did more for the black community than anybody with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln.
It's our responsibility. If we don't lead that effort to make things better, we can't ask other people to do it. There is no good reason not to vote.
Right, we need to have individuals that are in office like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
They are our best shot to take us forward.
And that's what makes me incredibly hopeful, but we really do have to work for this thing.
To the thousands who did not vote, we need you to show up for our future and for our country.
You cannot sit on the sidelines. You got to get in the game.
Paid for by Biden for president.
PHL, this is Councilwoman Sherelle Parker. We need every Philadelphian to be counted in the 2020 census. It brings us funding for education, healthcare, food support, public safety, and more. For every person who isn't counted, Philly loses $21,000 in funds. We can't let that happen. You have until September 30th to get counted. Go to www.2020census.gov or call 1-844-330-2020. Don't delay. Get counted, Philly.
Support for WORD comes from the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. You see them every day, in your house, in your neighborhood. They have been with you your whole life, providing comfort, reducing stress, cleaning your water. The plants and gardens around us have enormous impact in our lives. At PHS, we know a seed is more than a plant. Gardening is more than a hobby. That's why PHS invites you to join with them. Plant with purpose. Build healthier communities. Grow together. Learn more at phsonline.org/together.
The North Star Convention is a statewide event where concerned citizens, lawmakers, union, and community leaders are collectively working together to create an agenda that will address systemic issues in the black community throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Tuesday, September 22nd, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., State Rep Joanna McClinton and Sabrina Saunders will be hosting a forum on black women and girls. Go to northstarconvention.com to register for the free convention.
Home of the Happy Hour. With Sincerely Sarita. This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Streaming live at
WordRadio.com and on the Word Radio app. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
All right, we're scheduled to talk with Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner. He's scheduled to come on. He's not on yet. We'll bring him on shortly, or we hope to bring him on shortly. 215-634-8065. Phone lines are open. Phone lines will be open as we talk with him. In case you have questions, 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. One of the things, obviously, we're going to talk with him about, we always have to talk with him and others about, is the homicide rate, the violence rate in the city of Philadelphia. It is still 34% above where it was the same time last year. This same time last year, it was about 249 homicides by the time we reached this point in 2019. It is now 334 homicides. We are well over the 300 mark of homicides of people who have been murdered in the city of Philadelphia, 334, and it promises to get worse or to stay worse as it is here in Philadelphia. So we're still keeping a close eye on that. I'm sure we'll talk with him about it and seeing where and seeing exactly what the city's plan is in response to this, how they're going to tackle it. Whether or not there will be, whether there will be a difference in rhythm, some sort of new pivot. People are looking for something new, so we'll see what happens. 215-634-8065 while we wait on District Attorney, Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner. Go to phila.gov/district attorney for more. They're at Phila DAO on social media. 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. In the meantime, let's go to the phone lines. Eugene out of West Philly is calling in for a Reality Check. Eugene?
Oh, good morning, Charles. How you doing?
Hey, good morning. How are you doing?
It's a pleasure to talk to you, Bubba. Listen, with the gun and the crime problem in Philly, it looks like to me there's not a serious plan to tackle it, because the police department could place extra officers, plainclothes and uniforms in the areas where you have high crime. And my second thought is, there's a question. I was talking to a friend a while ago, and she told me that there was a brother lynched in South Philly at a park at 9th and Federal, and there was a hush-hush by the media, but I did see his case on my phone. And it said that this was the second lynching that happened in Philadelphia. Have you heard or read anything about that?
No, I have not. Yeah.
Okay. Because Solomon said he heard something, but he kind of brushed it off as, like, social media gossip.
I'll look into it.
Okay, thank you now.
Look into it. Absolutely. No, I thank you for saying that, for mentioning that. I will definitely look into it. I hadn't heard about it. I apologize for not hearing anything. It wasn't intentional. That sounds, if that is the case, that's really troubling and disconcerting. So that's something we need to look into. And I promise you, Eugene, I will look into it and see what's up.
What you have to do is, with your phone, go to recent lynchings Philadelphia, and the case will pop up.
Yeah, no, I'll do that. I'll definitely do that. So let me real quick. Thank you, Eugene. Thank you for that note. So that's something we'll follow up on. There's been so much that's been happening in the political space, and so so we have to make sure we're capturing everything, and sometimes that can be a little bit challenging. Let me take on Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner. He is now joining us here on Reality Check. Phone lines remain open in case you have questions for him. Stand by. We'll take questions. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Go to phila.gov/district attorney at Phila DAO. Larry Krasner joins us by phone. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine, Mr. Ellison. Please feel free to call me Larry.
All right. We'll do. Thank you for that. All right. So quite a bit going on. First, I did want to get an update from you on any new developments in the operation of the courts in Philly, also the operation of your office, because we're still in the midst of pandemic. So has anything changed, any new updates that you need to provide to residents?
So some of the news is good, and that is that we have started to be able to do jury trials again. As you may know, in the middle of March, the courts shut down. And I mean, we couldn't do trials. We couldn't do guilty pleas. We couldn't do violation hearings. We couldn't do any of the stuff that we normally do for quite some time. But fortunately, we've gotten to the point where the court system has worked with us and others, and we've been able to start jury trials. Last week, we are doing jury trials against this week, and we're hoping that we can just start to increase the flow of cases that can get resolved. I think the most important development, though, is that when the courts started back up, in order to keep people safe from the pandemic, their idea was to broadcast trials on the YouTube channel so that they could be watched by the public. And that was very upsetting to us and also very upsetting to a lot of victims' advocates and to some defense attorneys, because what it meant was the entire world could basically watch a trial from home. You had the risk of potential harm and intimidation to witnesses. You had the risk that witnesses would not even come forward. I mean, think even about a situation a defense attorney mentioned to me, which is a defense witness comes in and says, it's not the defendant who robbed that bank, it's Joe. Well, Joe's people are watching. And so it was very, very disturbing to us. And even though the court was not willing to change it initially, we went to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and they agreed with us that that is not acceptable, that there has to be control over the ability of people to videotape or to watch from a distance or to take photographs of people who are testifying. I mean, if you think about it, a sexual assault victim having their testimony, their tearful, traumatized testimony recorded and preserved for the rest of their lives by God knows whom, right? So we were really pleased to see that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court agreed with us that that is a problem. And what is happening now instead is that the identities of witnesses and victims are going to be protected, but also the ability of the public to see what's happening in court, which is a constitutional right and is important, will also be protected by having the images from a courtroom transferred into another courtroom where people can watch it there. They just can't pull out their cell phone and record it, but they can watch it there.
What was I don't understand. What was the right? To me, it seems like common sense not to do something like that, not to have live courtroom drama or courtroom deliberations broadcast live like that on something as accessible as YouTube. I don't understand the rationality behind that. Did you? I mean, well, of course you didn't either, because you sued over that. But I'm just trying to figure out and trying to put my hands around that.
Well, the truth is, I think even within the courts, there were many judges who were opposed to it, but a decision was made, and it doesn't matter too much by whom. A decision was made to do it this way. Honestly, I think it seemed to be easy. It seemed to be bureaucratically easy, but obviously it created a world where prosecutors were going to have trouble even getting witnesses to come into court. So we're glad that has changed.
Yeah, I guess that's probably what people were thinking about, just kind of like path of least resistance in terms of making that public. No, thanks for entertaining that. I'm looking at a variety of things that are happening right now during pandemic, Larry. As far as the environment, job displacement, discrimination, evictions, vulnerable populations being mistreated, particularly when you talk about frontline or essential workers, the use of police by real estate developers, like the case like what we saw with Breonna Taylor. And I wonder about the role of an office like yours, the role of prosecutors, how that can be reshaped or redefined, or how that is reshaping now during a time of pandemic, beyond just sort of being a law enforcement function. Do you wonder about what that role might be beyond just crime fighting?
Well, I think there's no question that the role of prosecutors around the country, at least ones who want to try to do things in a modern way, is changing. I mean, for example, we face the real possibility with so much financial desperation everywhere, we face the real possibility that some landlords may try to avoid the law and just go in and throw people out if they're unable to pay, and they may try to take their property or put it on the street. Well, the law doesn't permit that. And even though it is not commonly the situation that prosecutors are going to bring charges against landlords who act illegally, it's something that we have to be willing to do. We all have to solve these problems together, and it's just not going to work that the people who have the resources or own the property or they got the money can kick people out on the street and can throw their stuff out without going through a court process. We have due process in this country. So that's an area where we may have to step up and do some things that are absolutely legally righteous, but are a little bit unusual. Another thing we're having to do every day is we're having to deal with the importance of protecting people's constitutional rights to peaceful protest, to express themselves, while simultaneously prosecuting or holding accountable violence when violence occurs. It is a bigger and bigger issue at a time when we see some of the biggest protests that we have seen in United States history. I mean, even now, there's some tension that's playing out with reference to a homeless encampment. And I will say this, give some credit to the city. Fortunately, at this point, we haven't had another situation that involves tear gas, as we had on 676, or tear gas, as we had in West Philadelphia, which has been very controversial and, frankly, you know, does require some close inspection. So these kinds of issues are coming up much more than they used to, much more than they were ordinarily, and we're going to have to be sensitive to them and careful about what we do.
Yeah. We have some questions for you. Folks, make sure to keep your questions tight and short. We want to make sure we get everyone in and give the district attorney an opportunity to respond. Libby out of South Philly is calling in for a question for DA Larry Krasner here on Reality Check. Libby, how are you doing?
Good morning. How are you doing, Mr. Ellison and Mr. Krasner?
All right.
Good morning.
I'm not going to stay on the phone long, but Mr. Krasner, I spoke to you on the 13th of July, and I spoke with someone from your office, and no one returned. I haven't heard anything yet. I'm not trying to be a nag, but I just want my story to be told.
Libby, I don't think you're trying to be a nag at all, and my office needs to be accountable just like the police do, just like all the rest of government and everybody else does. So can you tell me with who you talked to at my office so I can follow up?
That day and time, I didn't have an inkling, and I couldn't write the person's name down, but he had all my information, and I haven't heard anything back yet.
All right, well, let me do this, if I may. If you can, Mr. Ellison or Larry, excuse me, Charles,
if you could,
are you able to get that number, and then I can follow up afterwards?
Are you able to give that number out loud right now, Larry? Is that possible?
Well, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find out with whom she spoke, so I can follow up in that regard.
Okay.
We can start over if there's some confusion about the person she spoke to.
Got it. If you feel like it's sensitive, then if you could, Troy.
I don't want to expose Libby's number. I mean, I think Libby.
Oh, got it. Yeah, got it.
Libby, if you can get that number to us through WURD, then we will follow up very specifically.
Yeah, I appreciate it if you could, Troy, just in this particular instance, if you could, just take down Libby's number. Libby, we're going to let you go, but give that number to Troy, and then we can, or also email, you can email cellison@wordradio.com for anyone else out there if you're trying to get through to. What's your email as well? What's a good email for people to reach in instances like this?
Yes, it is Justice, JUSTICE, at phila.gov, G-O-V.
Justa@phila.gov. Okay, great. Libby, thanks so much for that. And then Troy will take your number, and then we'll pass it along. Let me go to Abdul Jabbar out of West Philly calling in for a conversation with DA Larry Krasner.
Good morning, Charles. Good morning, DA Krasner. How are you today?
Good morning, sir. How are you doing? I'm great.
I'm good. I'm basically calling to ask you, since the former Commissioner Richard Ross disciplined about 72 police officers for their racist emails and other racist connotations, how many of those officers have had their cases reviewed for possible dismissal based off of their egregious acts?
Well, Mr. Jabbar, I can't tell you exactly what's happening with the Philadelphia Police Department's internal disciplinary process. Not all that information is available to us all the time. What I can tell you, though, is that there was the Plainview Project was a group who went and tried to find this information out. Basically, what they found out was that a number of police officers with no privacy setting on their social media were putting things out there that were either racist, sexist, anti-Muslim, for example, or showed no respect for individual rights. They're making jokes about lying in court, things like that. Those names were made available to my office. And officers who did things that we believe showed some kind of very serious bias have been included in our database of police misconduct, so that when we decide whether or not that officer should testify, it is one of the things that we consider. And for example, if you have someone who is just flat out against some particular group, let's just say anti-Muslim, for example, and is testifying against the defendant who is Muslim, well, we need to take a look at that, because that is not what the police department or the prosecution is supposed to stand for. This is not a forum for working out your hate. If you have that kind of hate, maybe you shouldn't be a cop. But even if you are, it certainly should not be expressed in a courtroom. So I can tell you that that's what's been going on with us. I cannot tell you, I wish I could, but I cannot tell you exactly what has happened in terms of the disciplinary matters within the police department. We have no role in that directly.
Yeah, thank you for that. All right,
you,
thank you, Abdul-Jabbar. I appreciate that question. Let me go to Joyce out of Frankfurt, DA Larry Krasner, who wants to talk with DA Larry Krasner here on Reality Check. Joyce, how are you doing?
Good morning, Charles. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Mr. Krasner, I would like to ask you, do you think white supremacists have infiltrated the police department? This is a two-part question. And the 13 police who were fired, do you think they were white supremacists?
Well, okay, so thank you for that question, Joyce. I appreciate it. Unfortunately, there has been evidence nationally of white supremacists, and when we talk about that, I'm not just talking about people who think a certain way. I'm talking about people who get together in the woods and practice for, in their mind, the Second Civil War. There is a record of white supremacists around the country infiltrating the National Guard or infiltrating a particular police department. It was very concerning to me when I saw that the Proud Boys, which is a group that, according to most people, is a white supremacist group, was present at the Fraternal Order of Police Hall when we had a visit by Vice President Mike Pence, and we all know that there's a lot of footsie being played between the Trump administration and white supremacists. It was even more disturbing when the head of the FOP denied that they were inside FOP Hall, and then the Proud Boys posted a bunch of pictures showing that they absolutely were inside FOP Hall. And it was also a little disturbing to me that when the Proud Boys were walking with their flag and wearing shirts with their colors outside, that they were hiding their identities. They were covering their faces, and not just because of COVID. They did things like wrap their arms so you couldn't see their tattoos. Now, why is that? Why is that? Why were they going out of the way to hide their identities as they're walking around up at FOP Hall? It's concerning. It is very, very concerning. We always need to be on guard. It wasn't that many years ago when a Philadelphia police officer was found with a cartoon inside of his locker. And the cartoon said, "Blue by day, white by night." And what it actually showed was the figure of a person wearing a police uniform on one side and on the other side of the body wearing a Klan outfit. That was years ago. When you have a department that is as large as the Philadelphia Police Department, nationally the fourth largest police department in the U.S., even though we're a smaller city than that, when you have that, there are always going to be some people who have swastika tattoos. We've seen that before, who are, World War II reconstructionists, and somehow they're always wearing the German uniform. In other words, they're identifying with the Nazi, at least for the purpose of the World War II recreation. We've seen that. This cartoon I'm talking about, we've seen that. And now when we see the Proud Boys up hanging out and even, socializing with, drinking with, inside of a private establishment, which is the Fraternal Order of Police Hall, that is very disturbing to me. I cannot tell you, though, that I have more specific information than that at this time. I can tell you that all of us who love our country and care about democracy and who are anti-racist, and all of us who believe in equality, need to be on guard, and we need to be vigilant at a time when our president has essentially told white supremacists to come out and help them. We also need to vote. Make no mistake. If you want things to get better in this country, and I know you do, Joyce, just like I do, we all need to vote, because white supremacists are trying to take this country over, and they have a friend in the White House.
Yeah. Real quick, Maurice out of Southwest, make it quick in our conversation with DA Larry Krasner. How you doing?
Yes. I get right to the point. With all these shootings and murders, most of them happen at it's 40 zip codes in our city, and most of the violence is happening in 12. How come we don't see a high amount of police in those areas as far as mobile stations, like cops, walking around to the local delis and signing sheets and stuff like that to give the appearance of the police are really looking at. And also, the last thing is to cut down on, be harder on the drug trade and make them police themselves. You will not make no money in this area if the shooting increases. Well, I'll cut it right there.
Hey, Larry, it's an interesting question because I know before we had you on and you were talking about this new collaborative schematic you have set up between your office. You have ADAs who are now kind of embedded in the police districts. How's that working out, and have issues like that been addressed?
So, Maury, thank you for the question. I can't tell you exactly why the police are doing what they're doing. I can tell you, in fairness to them, these are difficult times for policing. There was even a moment when they were simply not arresting for certain kinds of offenses in order to avoid spreading the virus. And I don't say that to excuse what's happening. What you're seeing, I'm sure, is entirely valid. We do have a system that, for example, doesn't really incentivize the police to do a lot of walking around the neighborhood and checking in with shop owners. Maybe we should. Maybe we should be more willing to pay for that and less willing to pay over time for stopping every single car that goes by when you don't really have a basis to stop that car, right? Maybe we should change that. But with reference to our assigned DAs around the city, we have 2 ADAs, meaning attorneys, who are assigned to each of the 6 police divisions. We are citywide with that. The reports I've had so far are positive. It's like everything else. It's a work in progress. But the reports are positive about a relationship in almost every one of those divisions that is constructive, about there being a certain amount of community outreach, community building that's going on to build trust, because that's necessary if we're going to be able to solve crimes and get witnesses, but also about our ADAs learning and teaching, these officers teaching and learning, and everyone coming to a better place in terms of addressing why they are there, which is specifically gun violence.
Yes, it's an interesting conversation I want to take up with you at a later time too, Larry. I know I got to let you go. Really appreciate your time. We've been talking with Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner. Go to phila.gov/district attorney, at @DA_Larry Krasner as well on social media, or at PhilaDAO. Thanks for your time as always, Larry. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Charles. Wonderful to talk to you. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Okay, let's take a break. And thanks, everyone, for calling in, too. I appreciate those questions. Thanks, Maurice, to you. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to head into a strategist segment with Stefan Hankin of Lincoln Park Strategies in D.C., and we're going to talk about, with this this impending Senate confirmation battle over a Supreme Court justice, what that means politically, what that means in terms of the presidential race, in terms of the Senate race, what the polls are looking like. Stefan always updates us on that. That's coming up next here on Reality Check, Tuesday edition, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WordRadio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
Weather and traffic to keep you informed for your drive home in the happy hour with Sincerely Sarita, Monday through Thursday, 4 till 7 p.m. right here on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
During these unprecedented times, we're creating a lot of extra trash, and that means delays across the city with curbside collection. That's why we have some simple tips that will help you to reduce curbside waste and collection delays. Reduce food waste by using garbage disposals or composting, and limit bulk waste to 2 items per household. Set out trash properly. That means using sturdy trash bags and covering containers with lids. Make sure your trash bags are not heavier than 40 pounds. Set out trash no earlier than 7 p.m. before your collection day and 7 a.m. the day of collection. And remember, you can drop off materials at sanitation convenience centers 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Last and most importantly, thank our sanitation workers for their hard work during these challenging times. We all have a role to play to curb our waste and help our city. Learn more at PhiladelphiaStreets.com.
Word Radio presents the following information to help you navigate the up-and-coming election. Still concerned about COVID-19 and voting in person? Pennsylvania has you covered with mail-in ballots. Simply submit a completed ballot by mail. So long as you request that mail-in ballot between now and October 27th, go to votespa.com and apply for your mail-in ballot today. When your ballot arrives, read it carefully and follow the instructions to complete it and return it. You can also track and confirm that your County Board of Elections has received the mail-in ballot by going to votespa.com. For more information on how to vote in Pennsylvania, visit states.aarp.org/Pennsylvania. Vote early. Word Radio presents the following information to help you navigate the up-and-coming election. Stay informed and vote. For more from Charles Ellison, tune in Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. or visit wordradio.com.
First started in 2011, Philly Tech Week is an annual week-long celebration of technology, entrepreneurship, and innovation in the Philadelphia region. This year is the 10th annual Philly Tech Week presented by Comcast, now fully reimagined as a week of virtual events, from professional development seminars to highly engaging interactive virtual parties. You'll get connected with the ideas, tools, people, and processes that are building a better future for all communities. Virtual events run from September 21st to the 25th. Learn more and build your calendar at phillytechweek.com.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
We're heading into our weekly strategist segment, and occasionally joining us is Stefan Hankin. Stefan Hankin, founder, president of Lincoln Park Strategies. Go to lpstrategies.com for more there. Also check out Trendency, the Trendency data insights, useful place to stop from time to time. Go to trendency.com. And actually, we had partnered up. Remember, we partnered up with Lincoln Park Strategies. They were our fantastic partners when we had pushed out that National Black Voter Poll earlier in the year before pandemic. Stefan Hankin, based in Washington, D.C., joins us as he frequently does here on Reality Check on WURD. Stefan, how are you doing, sir?
Not too bad. How you doing?
All right, hanging in there. So I know you've been watching with interest what's been happening since Friday night with the passing of Associate Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So how do you see this all playing out, right? Does a Senate confirmation battle on the horizon, does that put any sort of pressure on Senate Republicans, certain Senate battlegrounds? Like, which battlegrounds are you looking at right now as far as the Senate map is concerned?
Yeah, I mean, you would think it would, but it doesn't seem to have, right? I mean, I think the only three senators, Republican senators, who have sort of stuck to their guns on saying that they would not vote for a nominee, and we'll see if they actually follow through on that, but is Senator Murkowski from Alaska, Collins from Maine, I believe, came out and said I don't know if she said she wouldn't, but she thought it wasn't right or something like that, sort of the Collins kind of thing. And then, now I'm forgetting who the third one was, but then now we've, like, Mitt Romney says he'll vote, for him, and Lindsey Graham, and so basically it's like, every single Republican is, for the most part, has gone back on what they said not even 4 years ago, and this is sort of not shocking given the state of politics these days.
Yeah, was that Martha McSally out of Arizona? Martha McSally, what's she been saying?
No, she said that the vote should happen.
Vote should happen, right?
Yeah, she was never voted in.
I think there was. I remember. I know Lamar Alexander was saying out of Tennessee that he might not vote for, but I don't know. I don't know where he stands right now. It's kind of like they're kind of vacillating back and forth. So it's, and you just at this point, you're just expecting Senate Republicans to be Senate Republicans. But I don't know. I mean, let's kind of game this out, right, Stefan? Are Senate Republicans, are they sort of hedging their bets? Is there just sort of an expectation that, hey, we're going to lose the White House? There's a possibility we might lose the Senate by a slim margin. So let's just let's get a Supreme Court justice while we still can, so we still have some power for that can manage to make things problematic and troublesome for a trifecta in the executive and legislative branch for Democrats if they do get that here in 2020.
Sure, but it's I guess what's the disheartening part is just like what that actually means, right? I mean, because they're saying is, like, it's all about our power. It has nothing to do with what's good for the country. It has nothing to do with, the balance of power, right? Because if they do that, and let's say they jam someone through before the election and get enough votes to get the person on, and then Trump loses, they lose the Senate, right? I mean, you've now destroyed the judiciary for 10, 20 years, where there won't be any trust. None of the decisions won't be seen as legitimate because you now have, two judges who really shouldn't be on there, that because of blocking Obama's Merrick Garland all the way back in 2016, right? So I mean, but this is not new. This is not shocking. Like, Republicans do not care about anything than the power grab, right? So this isn't even hypocrisy. They are actually purely consistent in whatever it takes for us to get power in a way that is killing the country, because their power is not based on a majority support. It's based on a system of government that was set up over 200 years ago, which clearly did not foresee what is happening right now. But so the Republican Party has won the popular vote in the presidency once since 1988. They don't get more votes for House candidates. They don't get more votes for Senate candidates. Yeah. But smaller populations, more states, all this. This is the system we have. But they are a minority in power, and this is like our version of apartheid. Although it's not just keeping black people down; it's keeping liberals, Democrats, black people, brown people, anything that's not sort of like lily white and from the middle of the country. They're consolidating their power, and that is what they've been doing for the past 20-plus years.
Wow. What you just described there is like an autocracy. Like, we've been living that for quite some time.
Yeah, we don't have a functioning government right now, right? Like, and I'm not trying to be,
go ahead.
Sensationalist here. Like, we do not have a functioning government.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize that, too. I mean, there's a hope that we can kind of return to some semblance of a functioning government if we can get through this election. Which voters or which base of voters, Stefan, do you feel becomes much more enthusiastic about this fight? So I saw earlier polling, but this was like a couple of weeks before Ginsburg passed, showing that Democrats are a bit more enthusiastic or motivated by the potential of a Supreme Court pick than Republicans are. Like, this is an issue that is motivating or exciting Democrats more so than Republicans. I'm not sure what that's looking like just several days after the passing of Ginsburg. It might shift, but what are you saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's too early for numbers to come out, and I mean, unfortunate that we can't even sort of give her due, given how much she really brought to this country and the fight she had, and I'll blame the Republicans again, since they put out a press release 50 minutes afterwards saying that they were going to move forward with the vote. But I mean, I don't think this is a base thing. I think look, any Democrats who were that it's really important of who we get on the Supreme Court was already probably going to vote. They're already, sort of in that base category. Same thing with, on the Republican side. So I think that's going to be a bit of a wash on this one. And, I mean, look, everyone knew that RBG was going to be, I guess we hoped it was going to be stepping down on her own sort of volition come the next president. But, so it's not a shock that this seat is going to get filled. Obviously, in the manner it's happening is a shock. But, where I could make an argument, and we'll have to see, right, is does this get the younger voter, and I'm talking like 18 to 30, to show up at a level that wasn't expected? And I think, arguably that's going to be a good thing for Democrats. But, do they see what's happening here? Do they see the laws that are now going to be crystal clear that if they jam someone in, then, goodbye Roe, goodbye gay marriage, goodbye equal rights for women, goodbye, racial justice? Is that enough to get that youngest voting cohort to turn out? Maybe, but we'll have to see.
Wow, yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, you do see polling that suggests. I did see something the other day which was showing that voters 18 to 35. I think it was like. I think it was like a 67 to 27% margin or something to that degree, right? I think it's showing that in terms of support for Biden versus Trump among young people. So, we have to see how that all works out. I wonder how women, also especially white women voters, how they'll react to this, right? Because there's always that big mainstream conversation. And I just had this conversation with the president of the National Bar Association earlier on in this edition, Stefan, there's always a discussion about Roe v. Wade. What's going to be the impact on Roe v. Wade? Like, it's like Roe v. Wade is the only big case that came out of the Supreme Court. Whenever we have modern mainstream conversations about Supreme Court vacancies and about the people who will replace them. So I wonder about women voters, particularly white women voters, those voters who became crucial back in 2016. We assume these voters, like white women suburban voters, are connecting the dots between recent events like the passing of Ginsburg to how this might affect their rights on a basic level. What are we thinking there? What do we think is going to happen there?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think this could kind of go a little bit either way, right? So if you have the wavering white suburban voter, right? Like, obviously generalizing here, but so this could give that maybe voted for Trump or didn't vote for Hillary and was a little bit on the fence because there's something about Biden they don't like, but they don't really want to vote for Trump. Right? I could see some of them being like, I can now publicly say, look, I am voting for Biden because I don't like what they're doing with the Supreme Court, and it's too important for me as a woman to let some crazy conservative get put onto the court. And at the same time, now you're also giving cover for the more what do we call it, like racist version of that generalization, who can now say, I don't like Trump, but the Supreme Court is so important to me that I'm going to be voting for him so that we can fill that seat with a conservative or something like that. So I think it gives a little bit of cover in both directions. Now I do hope that if for any especially for women out there, but for any voter, but for women who were on the fence of maybe like, look, I'm just not voting for Trump, but I don't really like voting for Democrats, or Biden's not really exciting me, that like hopefully this will get those folks to be like, all right, look, Biden might not be my perfect candidate here, but like enough is enough, and we need to get back on some semblance of a functioning government.
Yeah. What new shifts are you seeing in terms of the presidential election? I mean, some people say, oh, like the polls are tightening, but other analyses suggest, Stefan, that the polls aren't tightening, that Biden seems to be pretty steady at like anywhere from, in terms of averaging 5 to 10 percentage point spread between he and Trump.
Yeah, I mean, so I think, look, 10 years ago, if I was looking at these numbers, I would have been like, oh, Biden's a shoo-in, right? Like, right. It's all looking good. He's holding maybe a touch expansion on his lead nationally. He's winning in every swing state that's like really important, right? I mean, like he's winning in Arizona, he's winning in Maine, where they have the one seat that can get allocated depending on who wins in the second CD there. Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, New Hampshire, right. North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, right? So it's like, you look at that, you're like, okay, like right now the data is saying the odds are that Biden will win. Now, the odds were saying that Clinton should win in 2016, so we're all a little afraid of our shadow, and I'm certainly in that category. But then, it's also like, I think the other part that's just hard to wrap your brain around is, we have a man-child in the White House who is completely unable to do this job in any meaningful way. We've had over 200,000 Americans die, and he's still getting the support of 40+% of Americans, right? So it's like, anything is possible when this is the scenario, and then also knowing full well that, look, nationally, the odds of him winning the national vote is as close to zero as you can get. And then it's just what's the cushion in some of these key states like Pennsylvania, where if it gets down to even, Biden's up by like 2 or 3, does it get close enough that all of a sudden, the ridiculousness of the voter suppression, both, what we're used to seeing in the past with making sure that, black and brown people can't vote, to, the new version of changing all the rules on vote by mail and all this kind of stuff at the last minute. Like, if he's got a 5 or 6 point cushion in these states, then I'm less worried about it. If it's down to 2 or 3, now, differences can be made up.
Right. I wonder about voter suppression, going back to that, Stefan, because you're a pollster. What you do with Lincoln Park Strategies and Trend and See, you look at data, look at voter sentiment, consumer sentiment. And I wonder, is there a way to factor in voter suppression in these polls? Can pollsters do that? You know, I feel like there's room for, or there should be room made for, you know, some sort of like voter suppression margin of error or voter suppression margin when we're, you know, an anticipated or expected voter suppression margin. Is that something that can be done? Is that a conversation that's taking place amongst pollsters like yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been discussed. No one's really come up with a good, like, oh, here's how you would figure this out, right? In any kind of, because we don't have the playbook, right? We don't know. We kind of know what they're doing, but we don't know exactly what they're going to be doing, and we certainly don't know what, you know, friends of the Trump campaign are going to be doing. And, you know, I'm talking about Russia, not, you know, friends within the country. So it is this combination of disinformation warfare that's happening, coupled with, you know, the physical, like, we're gonna shut down voting booths or, you know, voting places in neighborhoods that are predominantly people of color, to the, like, what are the mail ballots going to get there? What are they going to do with these things? How many are they going to try to throw out, right? So what we're kind of, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, right? It's sort of this, like, if it's within 2 to 3 points, that's close enough that arguably you could make up enough of a difference to, you know, kind of squeak out the win. I think in a state like Pennsylvania, if Biden is legitimately winning by like 5 or 6 or more points, I don't believe there's enough voter suppression that could make up that level of difference. I don't believe. But it's really hard I mean, you know, it's hard enough to figure out exactly who's going to turn out. You know, we can get a pretty good handle on that. But, you know, but this is something that's really hard to predict. So that's why we're kind of using this 2 to 3 point rule of thumb.
Yeah. We've been talking with Stefan Hankin of Lincoln Park Strategies. Go to lpstrategies.com. He joins us regularly here on Reality Check WRD, one of our contributors for our weekly strategist segment, at LP Strategies, also Trendancy.com as well. I know you got some recent just kind of top line analysis that's come out regularly, comes out weekly on at lpstrategies.com. So we've been talking with him here on Reality Check as we occasionally do. Stefan, based in Washington, D.C. Thanks again, man. Always good talking with you. Appreciate these insights. All right, take care. Okay, let's take a break, and when we come back, let's just open up the phone lines for a few minutes. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065, toll free, it is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break, and we'll take your phone calls when we come right back.
Hey, Word family. Our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
It's easier than ever to get the right health coverage for families of all sizes.
This is Bonnie, Ronnie, Tani, Johnny.
Penny gets you covered. Millennials, gig workers, virtual birthday partiers.
Grandma, you're on mute.
Penny gets you all covered. Penny helps you compare plans, get financial assistance, and purchase health insurance that fits your life. Get covered at PENNIE.com.
Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation? Follow us on social media using the hashtag onWURD. Be heard. Stay connected to Word Radio. Independent Black media.
Through farmlands, cities, trails, and beaches, the Delaware River watershed provides drinking water to more than 13 million people. Imagine where we would be if we didn't protect all of our waterways, the streams, the creeks, and the rivers that run through our region. We would be without abundant wildlife, without vital ecosystems, without nature to escape to learn from. Visit watershedalliance.org to learn about river days and find yourself in nature.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and onWordRadio.com.
Phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. There was a little bit of speculation that the previous caller had raised about the August 13th death of Alan McKell in South Philadelphia at the Capitolo Playground in South Philadelphia. So based on some journalism around this and discussions that Philadelphia Magazine in particular had with about 3 members of the McKell family, relatives of the deceased, and then also based on the recent report from the city's medical examiner's office, Department of Health spokesperson James Garrow had confirmed this to Philadelphia Magazine. McKell's death was a hanging by manner of suicide, and the family, speaking on condition of anonymity, had told Philadelphia Magazine that that the family members don't want to talk about this publicly because they feel, and I'm quoting Philadelphia Magazine here, which came out with a story about this and was saying that these are just primarily internet social media rumors about this being a lynching, and various sources, including the McKell family, which had the opportunity to view the video. It must have been very difficult for the family, but they viewed the video and they said it brought closure because they know exactly what happened and it was not a lynching. One of the family members was saying that, and I'm quoting one of the family members here was speaking on the condition of anonymity. I now have closure. It is clear as day. Alan is alone. He looks around to make sure no one else is there. He acted alone. This was not a lynching. This was not a murder. And I just don't like the way that some people are picking this up and running with it when they don't really know. One other family member is saying, but if we don't put our voices out there and let everybody know what really happened, I'm honestly worried about what might happen next. Especially in 2020, there's just so much anger and unrest out there. Philadelphia Police Department is just saying that they haven't released the video because it's a case similar to incidents. The case is closed. It's similar to other incidents, like things that might happen at, say, like senior homes or I think it's also maybe doing that with respect to the family's wishes, not really putting it out there too publicly exactly what happened. This is the family saying that, of the deceased, saying that they just feel like it's slightly embarrassing for them, and it's just very difficult, a very difficult time. So this is based on reporting from Philadelphia Magazine. It's not me saying this. This is based on reporting from Philadelphia Magazine, and they took the time to talk to several family members of the deceased, and everyone's come to the conclusion that it was not a lynching. It was not. It's probably why it's not a whole bunch of news out there in any mainstream press saying, oh, there's been like a lynching or a series of lynchings in Philadelphia, because in this particular case, that's just not what happened. But internet rumor, remember we always talk about here on Reality Check, like, be careful of the infodemic. We have pandemic going on. We have all these tensions, but then you have the infodemic. And the infodemic is when you have like a lot of misinformation, false information spreading, or people making things up, or people speculating because the flow of conversation doesn't go the way that they want it to go. And we have to be very careful of that, because the infodemic hurts people. The infodemic has killed people. We have seen situations, for example, in other countries where Facebook allowing all sorts of, and Facebook still doesn't have a handle on this, refuses to put a handle on this, but it's created like genocide, literally rumors running rampant on a social media platform, Facebook in particular, in one particular instance in Myanmar a couple of years ago, and that resulted in the deaths of thousands and the displacement of nearly 1 million people in one country because of just rumors, just stupid and very vicious, cruel rumors being spread on a social media platform. Can you imagine? So we have to be really careful how these things spread, how we have these conversations, and take our time. That's the other thing about it too. There's so much like rushing that's going on, in public conversation and in media today. There's no like, and I often find myself challenged with this, and having to step back. We all are in the media field and in the journalistic field, because everyone's racing against the clock, and it's bad. It's bad. It really is bad. I'm not going to excuse it, but I'm going to tell you that, like, and folks in the journalism field or the media field who will say, oh, we don't face this problem or challenge, just straight bold-faced lying to you. And it's a problem. You know, everyone racing against the clock, racing to get in the breaking news, racing to be competitive or to gain like that extra percentage point in rating or that extra follower or two on social media. And it's like people are not taking the time to look through, to examine the information. It's something I struggle with every day hosting this show, because honestly, my personal preference, my own personal moral preference is to really, if you don't hear me talking about something, it's because, you know what, I think it's unfair to you as the listeners to not deeply investigate or explore that topic, right? So I remember a couple of years ago, I remember looking at the maps, looking at the different zip codes in the city of Philadelphia and how parking infractions or moving citations were issued in different parts of the city. And at first glance, I noticed, wow, you know what? The black neighborhoods are getting the highest amount of parking tickets and traffic violations and moving citations. That was at the first glance. But then I said, and I could have like the next day been on Reality Check saying, yo, look, y'all, what I found. I took my time. I took about a couple of weeks, and I broke it down. I wrote about it in the Philadelphia Citizen, and then I started talking about it on Reality Check. And then that led to, because I had a careful conversation about it, then that led to some folks crafting some legislation with respect to that. That issue is still not completely resolved, but you understand what I'm getting at. It's just not fair to you. It's not fair to people who are impacted by those types of stories and rumors or that type of information. And I don't want to insult people's intelligence. I just don't. But it's something I grapple with and I struggle with, honestly, each day. And I just try to do my best with it. And I feel really I feel really bad, for people who are caught up in things like that, internet rumors and social media rumors. It's a very new thing. It's a very new thing in our history as a civilization, as humanity. And we're having all sorts of problems still grappling with it, and I don't know. I don't know when it's going to stop. It just seems to be a continuous vicious cycle. Let me go to Tyrone out of North Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. Tyrone, how are you doing?
Hey, peace and blessings, my brother.
Peace. How are you doing?
God is so good, because that's what I'm calling up to talk about. What you just said, my brother. Peace and blessings to all. But when the brother said that we are now, in a non-functioning government, I want to just go back to two things before I make my point about what you were just speaking on. The court had to step in and say that the Republican was doing such a strategical job of disrupting the voting process and making it unfair and to their advantage. And they stepped in too late, because the Republicans had already oppressed, repressed, and stole elections because of using the established governmental procedures. So right now, we are functioning on a dictatorial politics and policies. And my point is what you were saying right now, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot allow the messaging, the things that we're going to hear, because over the next 40, 45 days, we're going to be bombarded with all kinds of stuff that's going to create confusion, going to create doubt in your thinking, going to create hopelessness, and compel us to give up, give in. And I'm calling to say, please, do not fall for it. These folks who are running things right now are so power hungry that they would do anything to keep it. And we got to do everything to take it away from them. So thank you, my brother, for allowing me to share that. But people, please do not get discouraged, because it's going to happen, not only on social media, even on the TV. Today, my brother Charles, I was looking at one of the, church programs. Every morning I get into the church program. Yeah. And these folks had a nerve to say, talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, talking about this Marxist and all this other stuff. But they never say anything or said anything about when there was Jim Crow, when there was lynching, when there was just taking people's lives, anytime they wanted. And now we're caught up with people are being shot down innocently by those who pose to serve and protect. So we're going through a lot of different things. And I'm just asking folks to please stay faithed up, please stay, get the information. Do not react to everything, because there's going to be a lot of things that's going to make us want to react. So once again, my brother, thank you for allowing me to share.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate those words too, Brother Tyrone. Very wise words too. Yeah, just folks need to slow down a little bit. Take your time. Take your time to process information. Whenever you see, let me say, just rule of thumb here, and I'll go to break. Sorry, Troy. Real, just very, very, very quick here. Rule of thumb. Anything you see on social media, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, click into it first of all. Click into it. Please just click into the article, like, unless it's, if it's some like news article that someone's, and just don't take it for face value. Don't take the tweet or the post for face value. That's just rule of thumb. Don't trust what you see on social media. Investigate it. Take some time. If it really concerns you that much, that particular topic or issue, then you'll take the time. You'll take an extra 15 or 20 minutes to just look at it. I do what's called comparative news analysis. I don't just rely on one news source or one article on a particular incident or event or issue. I look at about 5 or 6 different articles from 5 or 6 different sources, and they're going to report on it differently. And then then I'm able to make my own sort of, and that's just a pro tip for you. And then I'm able to draw my own intelligent conclusion. I highly recommend that. Slow down, please, with the social media stuff. Slow down, or take a break from it. Like, really, take a break from it. Sometimes I take a break from it. I know some of my colleagues in the media space, they like to be on it all day, every day, every hour. I got to take a break from it. You should too. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back on the other side, Emma Borbor, who's the organizing director of the Women's Community Revitalization Project, is coming on to talk about their upcoming People's University session on voting rights. So we'll talk with them in a moment here on Reality Check, WURD 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
So you just finished binge watching that entire TV series? Now it's time to binge listen at wordradio.com. Check out our archives of WURD On Demand and listen to some of the most memorable moments from your favorite hosts. Word Radio On Demand. Check it out right now at wordradio.com/podcasts.
Pico has many ways to help you lower your energy usage and save money at home. Here's one. If your heating and cooling system is more than 20 years old, it may be time for your contractor to replace it with a high-efficiency Energy Star certified model. You'll get a rebate from PECO and save on your monthly electric bill. You'll find a list of new heating and cooling system rebates at PECO.com/rebates. Or you can call 1-888-5-PECO-SAVE for all the details. Plus, find instant discounts on smart thermostats and more at PECO.com/marketplace. There's free shipping on orders over $49.
He knew. Donald Trump knew how deadly COVID was months ago, and he lied about it. Just listen.
Now it's turning out it's not just old people, Bob. Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older.
Yeah, exactly.
Young people to plenty of young people.
Donald Trump knew as early as February just how deadly COVID was before anyone even died, and he did nothing about it. His indifference cost tens of thousands of black lives.
It goes through air, Bob. You just breathe the air. That's how it's passed. It's also more deadly than even your strenuous flus.
Nearly 200,000 dead. 1 in 5 are black. This virus is literally killing us, and Trump did nothing to stop it.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you, I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down because I don't want to create a panic.
Too late, Mr. President.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
This is WORD Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Black Talk Media. Reality Check.
With Charles Ellison right now on WORD Radio.
And WordRadio.com.
Real quick, we just have some breaking news out of Johns Hopkins University, the center that's tracking global coronavirus deaths. The total number of deaths from coronavirus, from COVID-19 in the United States has officially surpassed 200,000. That has officially surpassed 200,000. That's breaking news coming out of Johns Hopkins University. There is a center there that has been since the very beginning, is the authoritative tracker on global pandemic deaths, because it is global once you call it a pandemic. But that's now a very sobering data point coming out of the United States. The official coronavirus death toll in the U.S. has now surpassed 200,000. We are past the 200,000 mark. So I hate to break that, but that's where things are right now. As far as the pandemic is still here and it's still very real, and a lot of people are suffering. So just going back to what Mr. Tyrone had said earlier before we went to break, just keep your heads high and stay focused. Stay very focused. So anyway, let's transition into our next segment. We're at the top of the noon hour here on Reality Check WURD. Joining me now is Emma Borbor. She is organizing director of the Women's Community Revitalization Project, and they are overseeing or helping facilitate a new approach to educating people. It's a voter education series, educating people about voting rights, also debunking certain myths around voting in this election. They're calling it the People's University. It's being put together by the Philadelphia Coalition for Affordable Communities. One of those partners is Emma's organization, Women's Community Revitalization Project. She joins us by phone here this afternoon now on Reality Check. Emma, how are you doing?
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, no, I appreciate this. For more information, go to phillyaffordablecommunities.org. You all have a workshop that is today, right? It's today at 6 p.m.
That's right.
Go to, right. Where should they go to get more information? This is an a free virtual workshop that people can go to get information about mail-in voting, about, it addresses concerns about in-person voting. Where should they go online to register for this?
Yeah, they can register today for our workshop at 6 p.m. At bit.ly/peoplesview2020. That's bit.ly/peoplesview2020.
Okay, excellent. Go there. This is the second of 3 workshops that you all have been holding, how to vote. So talk to us a bit about the People's University. What is that, and what does it mean?
Yeah, People's University is a voter education series from our coalition, the Philadelphia Coalition for Affordable Communities. Our goal is to help connect the dots between the election and Philly's housing affordability crisis. So this year we're doing a series of 3 online workshops: why we vote, how to vote, and what happens after we vote. And as you mentioned, our second workshop, how to vote, is happening tonight at 6 p.m. So definitely not too late to sign up.
So there's an emphasis on housing and food insecurity. Why those 2 issues? Just talk about why you're picking those 2 issues, or why you're emphasizing those 2 issues in the context of this effort.
Yeah, so that's the focus of our coalition, the Coalition for Affordable Communities. We organize for more resources for affordable, accessible housing and urban agriculture in Philly to achieve our goal of development without displacement. So at People's University, we explain how voting is one piece of that organizing puzzle to achieve that vision. And this year, we're focusing on the presidential election and specifically how the president affects us in Philly through the federal budget.
How bad does that situation look to you? You're on the front lines of this. You're on the ground level, adapting to this pandemic situation, responding to multiple crises unfolding. This is the work that you do. How bad does it look right now?
Yeah, it was bad before we even knew what coronavirus was, and it's even worse now. And the bottom line is Philly just doesn't have enough affordable, accessible housing for people at the scale of the need. And to really get there, we're going to need federal support, but that's been shrinking, and especially under this president.
Wow. Is there something dramatic or different that the city can do in light of that lack of federal support? So, because when I always, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Emma, before I definitely want to get your more thoughts and have more discussion about the need for people to understand the value and the power of a vote. But just to get more of your perspective on this, when I hear about lack of housing in a place like Philadelphia, then I'm just assuming, okay, well, that means there's lack of space. But then driving through Philadelphia, I'm like, but there's available space. Right. People don't need to, for example, camp out on the Parkway if there's available space. And it's not, I'm just not saying space in terms of shelters or homeless shelters. I'm like, okay, well, what are we doing with all this available space, whether that's abandoned houses or houses that are in need of repair, or empty office buildings? I'm always having trouble wrapping my head around the notion that there is unavailable space, because it seems like there is still a lot of available space in a place like Philly.
So you're exactly right. The city the city has right now 6,000 parcels of vacant land. It's publicly owned vacant land. And over the last 7 years, they've only given out 400 of those parcels to be put back into use. So there is definitely right now there are too many barriers for getting that vacant land into the hands of community organizations that can build affordable, accessible housing or create urban farms. So that's definitely something our coalition is looking at.
6,000 parcels of available land. Is that available land or available space?
It's publicly owned vacant land.
Okay, got it. And they only have given out about 400. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And that's something that I'm gonna start highlighting a little bit more when we're talking with elected officials. Yo, what's the holdup? Because we're complaining that we have unaffordable housing, unavailable housing, but then you got all this parcel of land that's out there. In addition to the uncounted amount of just available, vacant space, vacant housing space, apartment space, or what have you. You're attempting through this series, you're attempting to help people understand the linkage between that challenge, the challenge of housing, food insecurity, the crisis that we're faced with and the value of their vote. That's really a tough ask. I mean, I'm saying that as someone who's on this program daily, and there are some people out there who are like, you know, why does this vote thing matter to me? So I can understand that might be a challenge for you when having these workshops or those discussions on the grassroots level. How do you do that?
I will say people come in with the knowledge the status quo is not working for them. So really our job is to explain how voting can change that. So at our first workshop, we explained how the Electoral College works and how, because of that, how Pennsylvania will be a key swing state this year. And then we said a fact that really floored people, which is that in 2016, Trump won Pennsylvania by only 44,000 votes. And just here in Philly that same year, over 500,000 voting age people just didn't show up at all. So we have a lot of room to improve.
Yeah. The voter turnout issue in Philly is bad because it's like we're leaving so much of the decision-making process to a very small minority of the Philadelphia residential population. I mean, there's about like 13% of the Philadelphia population on average. How are people responding to these workshops, however? I mean, do people are you seeing instances where people are walking out of the workshop and they're saying, wow, you know what, I feel a lot more enlightened and informed, or I feel a lot more motivated to get registered, or if I am registered, to go vote? Are you feeling like the response is positive?
Yeah, we really are. You know, like I said, people understand the urgency of this moment because they're living it. But what we're up against is so many messages that, you know, the system is rigged, we can't make a difference. And I think when people are empowered with the information about how it actually works, how voting works, how the presidential election gets decided, they get fired up because they see where we can actually make a difference and where they fit in. So tonight, you know, a key message of tonight's training is going to be, if your vote didn't have the power to change our country, people wouldn't be trying so hard to stop you from voting. So we're not going to let them win.
Yeah. The second workshop, the one that's happening tonight, you're dispelling myths around mail-in voting. What are those myths and misconceptions in your mind?
The most misinformation is really coming straight from the White House. Ideas like millions of mail-in ballots will be printed and sent in from other countries, or that ballot drop boxes will increase voter fraud, are totally unfounded. But that's what our president is saying. And these attempts to create distrust are really just another form of voter suppression because, you know, it's about discouraging people from using an option to vote that is safe and accessible to them.
Do you feel like, you know, you focus on Philadelphia, you know, you're trying to get people mobilized to vote. And I've heard this critique constantly come up, like on an almost daily basis. Like the city or city officials don't seem like aggressive enough in really encouraging people to get out there to motivate people to vote. Like people feel like, you know, there needs to be a lot more energy from city officials, from elected officials, to do the kinds of things that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, we're mainly focusing on what we can do as organizations to do what we need to do.
Yeah. Now, as far as the format of the workshops, like what's the interactivity like? What should people expect when they go into this?
So this is our first year that we're doing People's University totally online. So I would say we're trying extra hard to make the workshops as interactive as possible. So one example, like from tonight, is we won't just be lecturing like these are your rights to register and these are your rights at the polls. We're going to be doing a know your rights, true, false. So it's more of an activity that people are reacting to and taking in and processing. We also have interactive slides, and we'll be doing breakout groups and videos. So, you know, trying all different angles to make it as dynamic as possible.
You know, going back to also like that housing, that affordable housing situation, what are some of the policy initiatives? Okay, so you know people are voting, and so that helps them kind of like amplify their voice and it helps them exercise some power. But they got to do that collectively. They got to do that in conjunction with others, and you know, so you have that collective power. So, but then the next step after the voting process is, okay, well now we won an election, so we have to shape policy. And so, from your vantage point, like what are those key policy issues in Philly with respect to housing and food insecurity? Are there any specific policy issues or pieces of legislation, things that you would like to see coming out of City Hall, for example, out of the Congress, that could happen if like this vote goes the way we need it to go in 2020?
Yeah, so our third workshop for People's University, we framed as what happens after we vote, because too often, like you're saying, it's disconnected. There's the voting and then there's the policy, but it's actually all part of the same organizing to achieve our vision of making sure everyone has affordable, accessible housing and has food security. So at that workshop, we're going to be talking about how people can stay engaged after the election in local organizing here in Philly, and specifically the Philadelphia Coalition for Affordable Communities is going to be tackling that vacant land issue that we talked about a few minutes ago, and making sure that more of the city-owned vacant land gets into community hands, and that we can use the resources that we have here in Philly to create more affordable, accessible housing and more urban farms to make sure people are fed.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's we need, as far as urban farm, because that's something we've been talking about quite a bit on this program. How do you, especially during pandemic, I think, do you feel like there's like kind of like a new sort of movement, a burgeoning movement? More people doing urban farming in the city of Philadelphia. You think that we're seeing like the start of something really fresh and new? Because people, I try to explain to people, don't look at it as urban gardening. Look at it more as like urban farming, and also people having more control and agency over their food and over food sources.
Exactly. You nailed it right at the end. I think, between the pandemic, but also the uprisings that we've been seeing, I think there's a new interest in having control in our communities over how development is happening, how decisions are being made in our communities. And I do think there's a renewed interest in making sure that there is community control.
All right, we've been talking with, thanks for that, Emma Borbor, who is the organizing director of the Women's Community Revitalization Project. Where is that located online, Women's Community Revitalization Project, Emma?
Yeah, you can find us at wcrpphila.org or find us on Facebook.
wcrpphila.org for more information there. Emma Borbor joining us here on, and don't forget to check out the People's University session workshop called How to Vote. That's tonight at 6 p.m. Go to bit.ly/peoplesu2020 to sign up and to check out that free virtual workshop. That's tonight at 6 p.m. talking about the value of the power of a vote. Emma, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, excellent. Phone lines are open at 215-634-8065, toll free, 866-361-0900 before we go to break. Also, after break, we'll be talking with Reverend Naomi Washington Leapart, who is the director of the mayor's office on faith-based and interfaith affairs. We were supposed to talk with her last week, but then city council came in suddenly. And so the mayor has announced or is launching a commission on faith-based and interfaith affairs. So we'll be talking with the Reverend soon in about several minutes. She's scheduled to talk with us, to talk about that effort, what that all means, and the type of role that the city's religious community will be playing on a number of issues. I do know I am working right now, I have been working this summer, or the latter part of the summer, with the Black clergy of Philly and vicinity on the issue of violence, of gun violence in particular in the city of Philadelphia, and people just trying to figure out, like, how they should do something different. That I know the Black clergy's been trying to kind of push the needle a little bit with respect to violence, and trying to getting not just more awareness about it, because everyone's aware of it, people know that it's happening, but people just trying to figure out, like, okay, well, how do we stop it? What can we do that's different, or that we haven't done yet? What haven't we considered in terms of response to violence? 215-634-8065, toll free, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. So let me go to Facebook Live. Let me see. Good morning to you, Lois Rubin Marks. So true about voting, she was saying. Good morning, Raphael Suleiman. Junior Lee saying the DA's attention probably should focus on prosecuting the police department for not solving or stopping crime instead of the criminals. Interesting point. Patricia Ivory, good morning to you. She's saying good morning to Word family and friends. So I'm just relaying that now it's good afternoon at this point. Samson Muhammad, the man in South Philly found hung himself. Cameras in the area were viewed by the family. Thank you for that, Samson. We had just established that before we went to break. Tanya Bryant, thank you, Mr. Ellison. I appreciate you bringing this information to me. Samson Muhammad, if men are really going to fight, then don't half butt. He didn't say half butt poke the bear. Everyone wants to live in peace. So I wish folks wouldn't call a radio station to incite a rumor. I agree with that. Yeah, like, don't do that. Don't do that if you can help it. You should help it. Just don't do it. Junior Lee, in my opinion, the only voting bloc possibility to gain is the black man and young black people under 30-ish. Everyone else is pretty much decided. It's a very good point, Junior Lee, and in fact, the Biden campaign announcing and also launching a more micro-targeted effort, voter mobilization effort for black men. So they launched a series of ads in places like Georgia. We're seeing those ads popping up in the Atlanta, Georgia metro area. So, it's like $1 short, right? A day late on that. I've been warning people about this for years now, since 2016. And so now everyone's now, oh, we got to rush, now they've made a big rush. It's just 40 days left till election, and now you want black male votes. Now you want black male votes, because, you didn't balance it out. There was just, so much emphasis. When I say this, I'm not saying this as in with any level of contempt whatsoever for the black woman vote, but you cannot have a black voting bloc on half speed, right? You can't have half a black voting bloc. You either have a black voting bloc or you don't. And so there was just like this heavy emphasis, this very excitable, heavy emphasis on black women voters. But black women voters have always been there, that it was done in a way that that alienated and discounted black male voters. But black male voters are a very big voting bloc. But it wasn't a whole lot of conversation or analysis. It was just, 13% of them voted for Trump. And so black men are bad. Black men are evil. Black men are just, it's like, vast majority of black men did what they were supposed to do. We did what we voted the way we were supposed to vote. So I don't know what people are talking about. What are you talking? Okay, yeah, it was like a few knuckleheaded brothers out there who either didn't like women or just like wanted to do the knucklehead thing. It was just the small minority, right? So and like it's like the classroom, right? Like one or two knuckleheads in the back are the ones who are making noise and disrupting things, but then the rest of us, we got to stay in class. We can't go to recess because of them. Like and people fell into the trap. People fell for it. They fell for it. And now look what's happening. Now everybody's rushing. And then the Biden ads are just like about criminal justice. So then when we have a conversation about black male voters, they make it seem like the only thing black males are concerned about or black men are concerned about, the only issue is not going to jail. So then there's that, and I remember pouncing on the Bernie Sanders campaign back in 2016 for that same mistake. Like, that's not the only issue that concerns black men. And the vast majority of black men don't end up seeing the inside of a jail. So it's like there are other issues, the other things we're trying to do, the other things we're trying to struggle through. So there's, so here we are. All right, let me take a break. And when we come back on the other side, we'll be talking with Reverend Naomi Washington Leapart. She is the director of the mayor's office on faith-based and interfaith affairs. And we're going to be talking about the new commission on faith-based and interfaith affairs in the city of Philadelphia. She's scheduled to join us next here on Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Keystone First VIP Choice HMO SNP Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan has a 4 out of 5 star rating and is one of the highest rated Medicare plans in the region. Keystone First VIP Choice and you are better together. If you live in Philadelphia, Bucks, Chester, Montgomery, or Delaware County, and you have both Medicare and Medicaid, choose the Medicare plan that is working to help you get better care. Enjoy extra benefits at no cost to you with Keystone First VIP Choice. You get benefits like dental, vision, and transportation to and from your medical medical appointments. They also cover a fitness membership to a gym of your choice, $150 toward over-the-counter pharmacy items. There's no copay for doctor's visits. They offer a large provider network, a great prescription plan, dental coverage, and even eyeglasses. Plus, you don't have to wait for open enrollment. You can change your coverage every quarter. Keystone First VIP Choice. The name you trust, the service you deserve. Call Keystone First VIP Choice today at 1-877-686-1760 or visit KeystoneFirstVIPChoice.com.
How do we make sense of our nation's history with race, privilege, and inequality? On Thursday, September 24th at 6 p.m., join Pulitzer Prize-winning author and Harvard University historian Annette Gordon-Reed as she discusses the challenges of wrestling with America's complicated past. This free virtual event is part of the Museum of the American Revolution's Carl M. Buchholz lecture series. Tickets are free, but registration is required at amrevmuseum.org or by calling 215-253-6731.
Word Radio presents the following information to help you navigate the upcoming election.
This is Charles Ellison, host of Reality Check on WURD. Are you a Philly voter trying to figure out the best way to get information on how to vote? Start at votespa.com for more information on such important activities as registration, applying for mail-in and absentee ballots, dates and deadlines, and locations open for voting. Also, more information, including phone numbers to the city election commissioners, is at philadelphiavotes.com. Keep following us on @onWURD on Twitter, facebook.com/4word, and hashtag Word on Politics for constant updates on election 2020. And remember, vote early.
Stay informed and vote. For more from Charles Ellison, tune in Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. or visit wordradio.com.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app as well. Reverend Naomi Washington Leapart is the Director of Faith-Based and Interfaith Affairs in the Mayor's Office, and now launching recently the Mayor's Commission on Faith-Based and Interfaith Affairs, MCFBIA. Go to phila.gov for more information on that. She joins us by phone here on Reality Check. Reverend, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
All right, good. Welcome back. So talk about this new commission, what it does, what's its purpose, what prompted it?
Sure. So this is an initiative, the culmination really of an initiative that the mayor endeavored to do even before I stepped into this role as for faith-based and interfaith affairs. We had 9 previous to this, 9 mayors advisory commissions that function as the eyes and ears on the ground to help city government tailor programming, get feedback on policies and programs, and just in general be a collaborative partner with the city as we continue to make Philadelphia a place where people can thrive. And so the mayor, in his desire to firm up the connections between city government and faith communities, decided to create this vision for establishing a mayor's commission on faith-based and interfaith affairs to collaboratively work not only with the other commissions that have already been established, but with city agencies across each department. And so the executive order had been drafted for this commission before I became the director, and I took the ball and created an application and recruitment process, had sit-downs with faith leaders from a variety of traditions all over the city. We launched the application at the end of February. The quarantine hit, and so we were then delayed by COVID-19, but we successfully completed the application and recruitment process this summer, and 24 people have been appointed as commissioners on this new commission. And so the work of the commission will just be to lead strategic collaboration between city government and the faith communities all across Philadelphia.
Yeah. That was my big question, was like, what differentiates this? Because you've already been in that role as director for faith-based interfaith affairs. So here we have this commission, faith-based and interfaith affairs. Like, what's the big difference? You're just going to just I guess it's just what as director of faith-based and interfaith affairs, you've created the platform or the administrative back end to support or to help accommodate this new commission?
Yes, and this commission will have articulate a vision for its own work outside of the work that I'm doing. Certainly, the commission will help partner with me to support the work that I'm doing, but they will set their own vision and agenda for further engaging faith communities in the city, and bringing back to the table feedback and suggestions and creative solutions that emerge from communities that can benefit the work broadly of city government. So their work will be distinct but related.
Got it. What are the key issues you think that this commission is going to focus on? Is it poverty, high joblessness, violence, environmental issues, environmental injustice? What are we going to be focused on?
Well, one of the things we asked throughout the application process was, what are the things that you're seeing in your faith community, in the communities in which your houses of worship are located, that have helped you develop an expertise around various issues? And we saw some patterns emerging. So there are several commissioners that are interested in and have experience in working within the context of public education, not just public education, but higher education, out of school time education, education for special needs families. Several commissioners have a passion around violence prevention and supporting the city's anti-violence efforts. Some commissioners have a particular expertise around sustainability and protecting our environment, protecting our planet. So each commissioner does bring a passion and interest and expertise in a variety of areas, and I hope that they'll do that work by committee. They'll do that work in partnership with other city agencies. All of the above, all of the issues that certainly the mayor has articulated in his second term priorities and more will be addressed by this commission.
How will you sort of balance the different priorities or agendas of all these various religious groups, because it's rather diverse. You've got Muslims, you got Jews, you have AME Church, Baptist Church. So people are coming from a variety of cultural and religious, racial perspectives, and that there's always been that argument that the most segregated, hour of the week is Sundays when people go to church. Certain groups or demographics of people, black, brown, and white, they go to their respective corners when they go to church. So how do you reconcile all of that? How do you balance all those different agendas and competing items in this one commission?
Well, first of all, I think that it was our goal, and it was certainly a priority of mine, to make this commission as diverse as we could. We know that about 87% of people in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia metro region, identify as religious, and so we wanted this commission to be representative of the religious diversity of the region. So it was important for us to have Buddhists and have Muslims and have Christians and Jews and have ethical humanists on the commission. And so we hope that this commission can model what it means to be collaborative and religiously hospitable while not seeking to be uniform in belief, right? We don't expect that people come to this table and lay aside necessarily their theological or religious differences. In fact, we hope that this can be a space where we can, with respect and with courage, learn about some of those religious differences and come to respect and appreciate each other more because of them. So part of the strategy, my strategy in leading and managing this commission, is to just name that we don't all come to this table from the same theological or religious place, and that's okay. I'm hoping that in every monthly meeting, we can do a little work around religious hospitality. What really does it mean to acknowledge that, not everybody worships on Sunday. Not everybody worships in the same way. Not everybody has a building that they go to for services, right? And so we're going to do that work internally as a commission so that we can then model what that means in the broader community. It'll be a challenge, but I think it's something that we certainly look forward to doing.
Yeah, yeah. Also, how much will the commission inform other policymakers in the city beyond just the mayor's office? What sort of relationship are we expecting, for example, the commission to have with the city council?
Right. So in setting up this commission, it's not structured like other commissions that have city council appointees as well as mayoral appointees. So we're going to do the extra work of making sure, for example, that we have at least a briefing with the city council members once a year. So that connection can be strong, so that city council members know that the commission is here, and we can have kind of a symbiotic relationship. So the meetings, the monthly meetings that we host will be spaces for policy briefings, will be spaces where city agencies can come in and make presentations so that the commissioners are well informed across the departmental lines about what's going on throughout the city. So because we don't have any city council appointees, it's going to be up to the commission to make that extra effort to stay connected to council and other city departments.
Okay. One thing I'm real curious about, religious organizations are like typically conduits for philanthropic resources that can marshal like foundation, grant, and other various government resources. So can this commission help leverage the ability to do that by religious institutions? Can help kind of maybe figure out creative ways to funnel some of those resources or philanthropic foundational money to a variety of city challenges, or to help locate resources to not just build up those institutions, but to force those institutions to focus on community building, right? And to funnel resources to the people, the congregants in those churches, because that's one of like my ongoing gripes with the religious community is like, there's a lot of emphasis on building up their own infrastructure or creating like brand new lots of mega churches, but not focusing on the needs of the congregation and what they're going through. So maybe this commission can help facilitate the kind of direction we need to see these community-based organizations go into.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to make sure that the commission was not only diverse by religious tradition, but diverse by kind of role of each leader. So not every person on the commission is a congregational leader. And we deliberately wanted to have some nonprofit leaders, have people who have connections to the philanthropic community, have people who are working within the context of community-based organizations, so that we know that folks are representing not simply their own congregation, the interests of their own faith community or house of worship, but representing the interests of the community at large. I'm also hoping that part of the meeting, the plan for the meeting agenda will be to have philanthropic organizations come and present what philanthropic and funding opportunities might be available to faith communities that partner with community-based organizations, and then the commissioners themselves can work to translate those opportunities for community members. So we really see the commission as a portal of effective communication with community members to translate what's going on in these institutions that have resources and make sure that the access is available to community-based organizations who might not hear about the opportunities otherwise.
Yeah. The other thing, too, I'm real curious about, Reverend, people may look at this and they may say, okay, this is just another commission that's coming out of City Hall. We've seen these commissions and task forces before. So how does this help me? How does this change my condition on the ground?
Well, so we certainly understand that. We want these commissions to be an extension of the community engagement that's already being done by the Office of Public Engagement. So seeing these bodies not just as kind of standing governing bodies, not just names on a piece of paper, but people who are trained in what it means to effectively engage community, people who can communicate and translate what's going on, quote unquote, at the top for the folks, everyday folks in our neighborhoods and in our communities. And so I'm really committed to that. In fact, next week on September 30th, we've been having these Wednesday webinars for faith leaders to update them on relevant topics, particularly related to COVID-19. Well, next week's meeting is going to be a Meet the Commission meeting, where we're inviting people of faith leaders from all over the city to come join us on Zoom and meet some of the members of the commission. We structured kind of like a listening session. We want to keep these lines of communication open. The commissioners are accessible. They're not in an ivory tower doing their work, but they are connected to everyday people who have everyday concerns. And so I invite people to mark their calendars for Wednesday, September 13th, 11 a.m. on Zoom. If you want information about how to register for that, how to be present, you can email me at faithphl@phila.gov.
faithphl@phila.gov, faithphl at phil.gov. And so, yeah, that was my other question about, like, how much access will, like, members of the public have to this commission, or an ability, like, what's the interactive feature, or what are key interactive features for this commission? So it's not just like, of course, I mean, religious leaders are leading it, or religious leaders in the community, but what about, advocates, also, or just, your average congregant or parishioner, or a member of a religious community? Do they have, like, or how are you going to get young people? Is there a seat at the table, or for young people, that playing a role in helping with this commission? Particularly at a time when, well, a couple of things we're talking about, how do we get young people more civically engaged? And two, the amount of young congregants or members of religious organizations has dropped precipitously in recent years. So I wonder about that, like, what sort of role, when I say young people, like from like ages, 15, 16 on.
Yeah, so the part of the executive order did stipulate that members of this commission have to be Philadelphia residents who are 18 or over. So we won't have official commission seats for people younger than 18. But this commission is multi-generational. We have younger folk and we have older folk who have a lot of experience in interfacing with city government, and folks who are just getting started building those relationships. We because I'm situated within the Office of Public Engagement, I have a direct connection to the Youth Commission, for example, or the Commission for African American Males, right? And so those connections are strong. If we want to partner with the Youth Commission or the Millennial Advisory Committee, we can certainly do that. If you want to reach the commission, we just set up a page within phila.gov for faith-based and interfaith affairs. It's phila.gov/departments/faith-based and interfaith affairs. And you can see the members of the commissions, the names of the commissioners right there. You can contact me. You can see our published meeting schedule, which we'll set up next month when we meet for the first time. And so this commission will be public-facing and accessible to the general public. And so I'm hoping that, first of all, by introducing everybody to the commission next week and then publishing our meeting schedule, we have this webpage, folks will know how to reach both me and the commission. So I'm looking forward to forging those partnerships and those relationships.
All right. We've been joined by Reverend Naomi Washington Leaphart, Director of Faith-Based and Interfaith Affairs in the Mayor's Office, now overseeing the Mayor's Commission, the recently launched Mayor's Commission on Faith-Based and Interfaith Affairs. Looking forward to hearing more from them. Really appreciate your time, Reverend.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right. Take care. So for more information on them or to reach out to them directly, faithphl@phila.gov. Let's take a break. And phone lines are open at 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Councilmember Mark Squilla. We need every Philadelphian to be counted in the 2020 census to get the funding we need to recover from the challenges of COVID-19. The census brings funding to Philly for education, healthcare, food support, public safety, and more. For every person who isn't counted, Philly loses $21,000 in funds over the next decade. We can't let that happen. You have until September 30th to get counted. Go to 2020census.gov or call 1-844-330-2020. Don't delay, Philly. Get counted now. Thank you.
Support independent black media and join the Forward movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com.
During these unprecedented times, we're creating a lot of extra trash, and that means delays across the city with curbside collection. That's why we have some simple tips that will help you to reduce curbside waste and collection delays. Reduce food waste by using garbage disposals or composting, and limit bulk waste to 2 items per household. Set out trash properly. That means using sturdy trash bags and covering containers with lids. Make sure your trash bags are not heavier than 40 pounds. Set out trash no earlier than 7 p.m. before your collection day and 7 a.m. the day of collection. And remember, you can drop off materials at sanitation convenience centers 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Last and most importantly, thank our sanitation workers for their hard work during these challenging times. We all have a role to play to curb our waste and help our city. Learn more at philadelphiastreets.com.
Hello? Hey, you've been on my mind, so I'm just calling to check in. Oh, we're holding up well here in Pennsylvania. Just trying to stay safe and figuring out if we should vote in person or by mail. We like going to the polls.
Yeah, you never miss an election.
And you know we're not missing this year either, and neither should you. But which way is the safest?
Well, remember that valuable information you got from AARP about COVID-19? Mom even had me read it.
Yeah, that was good info.
AARP has up-to-date voting information for 50-plus voters in every state. It's right there at aarp.org/election2020.
Oh, I got it. aarp.org/election2020. I love having the answers before your mama.
Pops, you know what happens when you try to show out.
Yeah, you probably right about that.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
All right. Welcome back. 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Asia Green, thanks for listening. You were asking, could you please drop the link for People's University tonight? Yes, I can. Once again, go to bit.ly/peoplesu2020. That's bit.ly/peoplesu2020 for the People's University session on how to vote. So check that out. Highly recommend. And definitely looking forward to, I'm sure People's University will be more than happy to bring you in. 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Phone lines are open. Junior Lee, Charles, let's say the Dems win the Senate and the presidency. From your perspective, what should be the first order of business? Okay, so what I am being told from folks I'm talking to on Capitol Hill, there is now, because of the situation that's happening with the a potential Senate confirmation battle looming over the vacancy left by now transition past Associate Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, there's no hope. There's no clear shot for another relief package or pandemic relief, pandemic stimulus package. So it's just like the level of tension on Capitol Hill is so enormous and so intense right now, particularly on the Senate side of things, where, you know, the House, they've got their act together. They've passed these packages. They put them through, but it's been sitting on the Senate's desk, particularly the Senate Majority Leader's desk. But now I'm told that it's probably not going to happen. So that's really the first order of business, is getting that going, getting that moving. And something it's going to have to be a series of stimulus packages. That's the very first thing for some really deep economic recovery. We've said this before in this program, and we've had experts on here who are saying that you're going to need anywhere from like a total of probably in the avenue a little bit under $20 trillion combined in relief packages and stimulus, over the course of time, to really totally pull the economy back together, and not just the economy in terms of its own foundations and in terms of the institutions that run it or hum along on it, but in terms of the people that have been impacted, like the permanently unemployed, and also to address like a lot of housing and food insecurity issues. That's the level you're going to need. So that's the first order of business. The second order of business is, is just some deep, really deep, very deliberate. I don't want to say cleansing, but kind of you're going to have to overhaul government. I mean, there's been a lot of government has been completely damaged. The federal government has been completely damaged during this administration because of executive malfeasance and mismanagement, and just rampant open air corruption. So you're going to have to fix that. So that's the next order of business. I mean, especially when you got a trifecta, and you got your House, you got your Senate. So now you can conduct some immediate oversight and get to the business of completely like fixing the government, like repairing it. Like you got to repair the damage. And I'm not saying put band-aids on it. I'm like take advantage of the moment to. I mean, of course, there's that whole process of like once a new government comes in, a new president like installs his own people. Well, in that process of installing your own people, you're going to have to clean the government out, like and really do your best through that process of oversight and repair, trying to replace some level of trust, or trying to inject a new level of trust for the government, or governance, right? So that's just going to be a big challenge, but that's something that they're going to have to immediately do. So, I mean, there are pieces of legislation, obviously, that are out there. I know some people out there, particularly listening, are like, okay, they need to pass H.R. 40. That probably should be one of the first things that they can finally pass, because you got a Senate that'll pass it, more than likely the commission to study reparations for African Americans. So yeah, go ahead. Fine. At that point, pass it. That should probably be like the third or fourth item of business at the top, of a new session of Congress and a new White House. Get that done like sometime February, March. Shouldn't be a whole lot of debate. Let's just go ahead, get it done, right? So, but I think that those are like those two kind of top items. Those two. Oh, and the third item is then you're going to have to come up with a climate crisis response plan. Climate crisis response plan, like no other. Like a new administration and with a House and a Senate to support that administration are going to have to focus on that, because that's happening now as we speak, and it's destructive, it's devastating. There is no plan to respond to it at the moment because the current administration has no interest in that. That's like the third top item of business, because you're talking about like actual lives and whole states, whole pieces of American geography at stake, and that has to be looked at now. And that problem, all the racism that we're talking about, well, that problem, climate crisis, and all the environmental problems, that's making the racism worse. That's the one thing that's making the racism, is aggravating the racism. The racism's already there, it's already bad. We'll watch it go from bad to now worse, because a lot of, quietly and gradually, a lot of Black people especially are stuck in places that they can't leave, places that are impacted. So imagine, like, we think about those wildfires and we're looking at those like mainstream or cable news stories. And so there's this assumption that, oh, this is just affecting like, suburban white people, or, because that's the kind of news and images that they give us. But then, you have to think about like in places like, whether it's in like out west, let's think about San Francisco or Los Angeles or elsewhere. There are people just like stuck in their neighborhoods, and they can't move. They can't go anywhere temporarily, because they don't have the resources and the money. They don't have the savings in the bank account to make that happen. They don't have any family far off. maybe on the East Coast to help them. See, we got to come up with response plans like that. These are the things we have to think about. These are the things that like our national organizations, community organizations should have, in an ideal world, should have already thought about and should have planned for. Imagine if like you had organizations like massive, large, national Black civic or community organizations like, say, an Urban League or an NAACP. Let's take an Urban League, for example, and saying, okay, we've got clusters of Black communities that are stuck in the LA metro that are going to have to breathe in choking, toxic air, the fumes from all these wildfires. Okay, well, do we have a plan to relocate them for a moment, relocate some of those families a little bit further in Midwest or out east where they can breathe some clean air until that situation is brought under control? I'm just thinking kind of creatively, right? Those the ideal situation. That's kind of like, do we have like Harriet Tubman created and others created the Underground Railroad. See, and people are like, what's he talking about? That's impossible. We kind of did those things before. Like, why can't we do them now? Like, I don't get it. And so, and these sorts of calamities and disasters, the same thing. Philly's going to have to think more intentionally and plan better for it, like flooding. The flooding is going to become a lot more intense, a lot more frequent. Urban heat islands and heat waves. Folks living in certain neighborhoods that are 20 degrees hotter during the summers, and they got no air conditioning. The most they got is maybe they get a free city fan. But the heat is going to get more intense, going to warm up even more. I know we're going into cooler months now, but how do we plan for that? How do we help those communities out? People aren't thinking about that, and so we have to. So because the racism is already there, the state of the environment is about to make, if it hasn't already started, it's about to make the racism worse. And every tragedy that we're talking about and that we have extensive conversations about every day, whether it's George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or Jacob Blake and others, dying at the hands of racist institutions, there's always, some sort of environmental root cause to that happening. And so, but we're not having that conversation. And we had the Congressman McGeechan, who was on earlier, who was saying like, hey, we need to, like, our pastors, the folks at the pulpit, they need to have more daily, every Sunday conversations to their congregation about creation space and about how we need to take care of this environment. That's one. And two, we need more media coverage of it and we need more conversations around it. But we're just not doing that. So, but now we're doing it. We're doing it this week because we're partnering, us, WURD EcoWord, our EcoWord project is partnering up with Covering Climate Now, and go to coveringclimatenow.org. So we're now like one of the national partners because we're the only Black media outlet that's doing this on a regular daily basis. So it's us, WURD. We hope that other Black media outlets around the country will take up that mantle. We really do. We'll take up that cause. But in the meantime, Word here, the little radio station that could here in this corner of Southeast Pennsylvania, only Black-owned talk media station in the state of Pennsylvania, and one of a few like it throughout the country. But we're the only ones doing that right now. So hopefully more folks will listen and tune in, and we'll continue these conversations in earnest for the duration. All right, that wraps this Tuesday edition of Reality Check. God willing, hope to see you tomorrow, Wednesday, 10 a.m. sharp. Thanks for joining me. Go to @EllisonReport on Twitter.com, #RealityCheck, #Word on Politics. I want to thank Troy Wilmore, too, at the Board of Steel. The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders is up next. That's coming up next here on WURD. So keep your WURD radio dial or live stream locked in for The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders. That's coming up next. In the meantime, Philly and beyond, I want you to stay sharp, stay smart, but more importantly, please, everyone, stay safe out there. Keep each other safe, too. All right, please have a great afternoon. Have a good evening, and I will, God willing, see you tomorrow. Take care.